Hello again, friends! And you are our friends, and this is my show, and it's packed today. Welcome to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru, filled with reviews and who knows what else here today. I'm your host, the great Brian Last, and here he is. We almost made it. The leader of the cult of Cornette, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Yes, here I am, and there you are, and you are you, and I am we, and we are all together here today for this program, which you've still just blown my mind, because right as we are about to go on the air, as they say, right as we are about to record this for posterity or posterior or whatever goddamn receptacle this goes in, you say, okay, countdown for Jim. I'm like, wait, what? This is your show. Why is it countdown for me? And then you realize that you'd had a brain fart over there. And then it's just
wishful thinking, actually.
Yes, exactly. But you know what? Wish in one hand and shit in the other, and see which one fills up first, as Mama Cornette used to say.
Did she really say that?
Yes, she would say poop. But the meaning was the same.
Why don't you do a book of just all of her sayings with art?
Because I just think of them when the occasion calls for it, because some occasion comes up in front of me and it instantly triggers that in my mind. But otherwise, I can't remember it. I just can't remember all of them just on the sperm of the moment, like recite them like a goddamn IBM computer. What do you think I am?
Kind of like a human computer. What I was going to say is, what would Mama Cornette make of the recent weather in Louisville?
Oh, she would be all up in arms over this. Because, as a matter of fact, it's raining today, since you asked. And it rained a little bit over the weekend. It's going to rain some more in a couple of days. And she always watched the severe weather, but she would be remarking constantly about the constant rain. We are like almost a foot or 10 inches, whatever heavy, depending on the part of even this area of Kentucky. A little south of us, I think, is 2 or 3 inches heavier than we are for the year. They're like a foot ahead for the year so far. And I'll remind people that next week, a year ago, I planted 15 trees in the front yard. It didn't rain a drop for 3.5 weeks. I was out there in that 90-degree weather with that fucking hose every morning. And so, yeah, she would be cursing the rain at this point. It's good for the trees and the flowers and the birds and the bees and I did that backwards. The birds and the bees and the flowers and the trees and the skies up above. It's made everything just greener than goose shit around here. That used to be a phrase in the wrestling business, but now all the people that would use it about all these people that are in it are dead. So that's one good byproduct we've got going for us. But otherwise, the weather has been somewhat dreary, a little dreary. So it's your show there, Maestro.
You set me up with such positivity. Let's get in the mood for fun, wrestling talk, and so much more.
Well, yeah, because, this program that we're about to do here today, we are going to compare and contrast, juxtapose, if you will, the major offerings of the last few days of the two major conglomerates involved in the profession of wrestling, the WWE and AEW, the Saturday night's main event and the Double or Nothing. It's like a tale of two cities, Brian, which, as opposed to breast augmentation surgery, which is a sale of two titties. But we're not comparing those things. We're talking about, I dare you, Travis.
No.
I dare you, Travis.
No, Travis, don't.
No,
don't issue dares if it's going to get you in trouble. Why would you do that?
Have me at the fruit market buying some prize-winning melons.
It's not fun if you just tell them what to do. People like to try to figure out what the hell he drew.
Well, I thought I'd make it easy for the sick and shut-ins that are listening to us here on the program.
One day we need to
anyway.
do something just to show some of the artwork that almost got on. It's like, what?
Oh, but not quite, just almost, but not quite.
Just the tip.
Just But anyway, what I was saying, we're going to compare these two things, these two products. One that you wanted just to see a little bit more, and the other that you were jumping out the window to avoid seeing ever again, that kind of thing. But nevertheless, that's what we're going to do here today on the program, right?
Listen, if you're willing to jump out the window, just sign with AEW. They'll give you something to jump off or jump through, if that's really what you want to do.
I don't know if I trust those catchers, though, because they look a little emaciated.
Well, at least they have enough time to get situated. They're there for a while. They get their feet planted and they're ready.
What does it look like to the people not watching the television feed, but just in the arena, when suddenly they see a group of like a dozen guys in black shirts clumped up together, just running from one place to another, and then soon after someone falls on them?
See, my favorite thing is because they have time and they're standing there, they have to do something. So a lot of them, the move is just pick up your arms and just move them around while you're mouthing like, no, no, hey, oh, stop, no, oh. Just move your arms like back and forth.
You know what? If one of the enterprising video editors out there in the cult could send us a compilation or put it out on Twitter or whatever of all of the security waving and to the wave your arms in the air, party like you just don't care. Because they don't care.
And then someone crashes down, misses all their arms, and lands right on someone's head. He landed on his head, and then he kicks someone else. Everyone goes down, and
I wish that they ought to be bowlers, pro bowlers, the divers, because they can knock those pins down.
And if anyone's interested in trying this out, just join a wrestling school. You'll get called up to the main roster to be a security guard before you know it. Barely have to be there.
How many retrospectives are we going to have in 20 years of here was my first day in wrestling and it was a fucking miscellaneous catching guy?
Really, when you think about it, how many people who were stars for either company have we seen footage of them like 10 years ago, 15 years ago, where they were just a security guard? Like escorting someone. There's a clip of MJF. Like when he first started, Samoa Joe pushes him as a security guard.
Yes, I remember seeing that. And obviously you don't notice at the time because they're not people that you would notice in that role. Maybe that's why now all the people backstage, like the building employees and random fans and security guards that get beat up, they all try to launch themselves into the wall like they've been flung by an elephant's trunk and take some preposterous bump because that's the path to stardom. To be fair, I think Rosie O'Donnell did it for MJF. That was what catapulted him into the public eye.
But you bring up the guy jumping into the thing. We've seen that a lot. We've seen that with professionals where they're thrown into like a wall and they just jump 5 feet in front of it right into it. But we saw it the other day with the Hurt Syndicate. And again, I'm going to guess those were wrestling students or indie wrestlers who haven't done anything. If you weren't...
Wasn't it Lashley barely touched him and the guy fucking flew 10 feet into the wall before Bobby had a chance to throw him anywhere?
Well, plus he got called for traveling. The guy was running too. The guy ran and jumped into the wall. But my point was, if you are a young wrestler, an indie wrestler, a wrestling student, and you get called to do something there, what do you do? Like, you don't want to be just... Do you want to just be in the background? Is it doing your job just to kind of not be noticed at all? Or do you want to do something to...
Well, no, it's hard to not notice somebody if they're getting powerbombed through a fucking table, right? No, if you're there as fodder for a star to lay waste to you in some kind of fashion, then you need to take that bump well to the feeling that the people need to get that have watched that is, holy shit, look how hard Lashley powerbombed that guy. Not, oh, look at that guy. He was waving his arms in the air, or he had the wacky waving arm inflatable tube man, or he did something to comedically to call attention to himself. He took the bump well and hopefully safely, and the attention's on Lashley. So that's a major part to play, but you can detract from the situation if you do the comedy bullshit or go too far with it or try to reenact, your favorite bump from the indies or whatever. It's just, if they want you to get powerbombed through the table, then give powerbomb through the fucking table and sell it like, you just got powerbombed through a fucking table.
But if you could do like an extra jump and bounce and flip yourself over the rope on a good day, should you try it there?
It didn't know, because then here, one of two things. Then you've just taken the attention. It's great to take a good bump for the fucking Cody cutter or the whatever the fucking finish is these days. It's great to take a good bump for it, but when you bounce up and you do the Shawn Michaels over the top rope with a chair around your neck, and on the way down, you fucking hopscotch 3 times on 1 foot, then you've taken the attention, and you're a nobody. You've taken the attention away from the bump. It didn't make the bump look good. It's trying to make you look good. And then you've distracted or detracted or whatever the fucking phrase I used a minute ago was. So just take a big bump for the fucking stunner or whatever.
Hey, when you look back on that Shawn Michaels Hulk Hogan match and feud, because that's what you're referring to. I mean, that's the best example of him just going over the top to sell Hogan's stuff in such a ridiculous manner.
Yeah.
That it's impressive that he's doing it, but it helped nobody. And he did a Larry King segment dressed as Hogan, pretending to be Hogan. Really made fun of him. When you look back now, was Michaels the babyface all along?
Well, I didn't say everybody was in universal disagreement, with the thought behind the actions, but no, because it was just, again, more childishness on television involving backstage stuff that now is usually restricted to the AEW crowd because the childish minds have gravitated in that direction. But no, it was unprofessional because of the import of the show, and the overall meaning behind what Michaels was doing was just to shit on Hogan, amuse himself, and he was so good he could almost get by with it. But that doesn't take away the fucking overall intent, right? If this was a courtroom, would there still be some intent that we could convict him of?
And remember, I believe the story was Michaels who, again, the Bret Hart thing was in the air. I mean, there's always a trust issue with some guys in Shawn Michaels. And you could say the same thing about Hogan. There's always trust issues with Hogan. Michaels, I want to say the suggestion was he would somehow win the first, and then something would happen in the second. Either one of them will win, and Hogan will win in the end. And Hogan returned with, I'll win the first, the second, and the third.
Yeah.
And then they had, the one match where Shawn Michaels made Hogan look like a fool.
But see, again, they knew they were going to have 2 out of 3 or 3 or 2 or whatever. They knew they were going to have the one match, and the shoe was on the other foot this time. I'm not going to do a job for that guy. It was on the other fucking guy's foot that was about to drop the fucking leg. And so, Michaels reacted differently when the shoe or the boot was on the other ass.
Well, speaking of the other ass, the other ass that works for Jim will be at Cornette's Collectibles. Mailing stuff. I don't know how to transition here. I'm trying to come up with something.
Well, no. Hotchkiss Featherbottom could classify as that other ass. He would appreciate being thought of. Everybody needs to mention Hotchkiss every once in a while. And I will have you know, Brian, and all of you Cornette's Collectibles customers out there over the last month when we had the May sale, that everything that has been ordered through May the 28th has been signed and has been handed off to the Featherbottoms for processing with labels, shipping labels and the like this weekend. And so the first week of June, as we promised, everything all up to date will be winging its way to the fine customers out there. And that means you can order now with impunity. Whatever that you would like at jimcornette.com, whether it be the DVDs, the books, the miscellaneous items that are still left from the May sale, the action figures, the autographed photos, I've got some used underwear on there, but I'm sorry, that's my OnlyFans. That's a different account. But check anyway, just in case, jimcornette.com at the Fine Collectibles page. That's what we're doing over there. And I got to plug the WHAS Crusade for Children. For those of you in the Metro Louisville area or anywhere that would like to donate via the internet, is June 7th and 8th is the telethon and the this year's 70. My God, I've lost it now. I think second, possibly crusade. So June 7th and 8th. What you doing, Brian?
Right now?
Well, yeah, right now. I mean, what do you got, your hands underneath the table or what's going on there?
Oh, yeah, I got really turned on by that Randy Atcher talk. That's what makes me.
Hey, come on now. Hey, Randy, in his day, the singing cowboy had sex appeal back in that era. You'd be amazed the number of women that would write the station, ask for the autographed black and white 8x10
I would
gloss.
be amazed. You're right. I would be absolutely amazed. Well, this is your show.
No, it's not.
But
see,
it can
you keep
be.
thinking that. It cannot. I can't take on any more responsibility.
All right. Well,
I've got a family, damn it.
We have a lot to get to. Obviously, we have Saturday night's main event. We have AEW Double or Nothing. We have some, various little things coming out of there. Comments from Tony Khan. Why don't we start real quick with an off-topic thing, if we can call it that. Apparently, Dave Meltzer, and I only say apparently because everyone sent this to us.
Yeah.
It was on Twitter, yet people start sending it to us on other platforms. On Facebook. Here, have you seen this? Yeah, I'm on Twitter. I saw it.
They were sharing the various screenshots of the different methods that the kids communicate with each other on, is what they were doing, of this exchange that Uncle Dave had.
Apparently, Dave got into a fight with AI. That's the headline that everyone's talking about. Twitter, or X, have their own in-house AI called Grok. Every now and then you may see someone say, at Grok, is this true? And their internal AI responds to your question, which you would hope would be right, but I haven't really used Grok, so I couldn't tell you.
Just on the name alone, I thought it at first when I saw it pop up on my screen, I never did know what it was until this came up, because I thought that was their version of spam. Like, that's Grok. We don't want that around here. It just filtered shit out.
Well, apparently, Jim, someone was talking about Raw's debut on Netflix and the number it pulled, and they got into somehow a debate with Dave Meltzer. And the person or someone said, hey, Grok, is this true? And we have part of Grok's answer here. It's clipped. The decline in ratings on Netflix in 2025 likely stems from multiple factors. Viewership dropped 35% in the US, with the May 12th episode at 2.7 million global views, down from 4.9 million at debut. Dull storylines, like weak heel Cena arcs, ... So the AI is now saying what they think the problem is.
Right.
To which Dave quote tweeted, debut was 5.9 million, not 4.9 million. Also, 5.9 was a legit number. 2.7 million would only be legit if virtually nobody watched live, and we know that's not the case. To which the story became, why is he arguing with AI?
Well,
is he winning?
If he writes that, does that mean that then that Grok updates its information with this information? Does he have to believe it because Dave's a real person, but Grok is artificially intelligent? Dave is arguing with a goddamn machine that just generates comments based on all of the other people who have added their 2 fucking cents worth in or got their shit in on the internet before that. Are they not? Is he not? Is it not? What are they? He, it. there?
Well, again,
Who is that there?
well, again, we've seen a lot of Dave fighting with people on Twitter, just retweeting their things to, in a very condescending manner, kind of insult people by just hitting them with things, sometimes not even what they're talking about. In this case, he did it with Grok.
Now he's actually arguing with the internet himself, not somebody on the internet.
But is this kind of like the Russian champion playing the computer in chess?
Wait a minute, which side's which?
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't because it's Grok,
Yes.
you know, so it's not like it's, you know, the people at IBM.
Grok didn't know what they ran into until they met Bobby Fischer. You know, again, even if Dave is right, because I guess what Dave could be arguing, 5.9 was a legit number. Grok is saying 4.9. Was Grok pulling the number from their press release or something? Where would Grok get that number?
I don't know. Does it matter that he is trying to create he is trying, Dave, too many pronouns, pal. Dave is trying to correct a machine generated response rather than a person that can say, oh, all right, I'm sorry I got the numbers wrong. I thought I read this on fucking Happy Doodle's Wrestling Report. He's trying to change the mind of Grok.
Yeah, I don't know if Grok responded. Grok may have taken their beating. And
Can Grok well, Grok can respond because he was responding to the question he was at. Do you have to ask it a question? Otherwise, is he can be seen but not heard type of child. But if you ask it, it will pipe out with its thoughts and opinions, or can it just go back and forth with you? Like, and here's another thing, Jim, Grok said. Can he just start adding shit and say and really tell you off?
I think Grok responds, and then if you want Grok to reappear, you just say at Grok, help, or is this true? And I assume
is there a Grok version of a spouse?
A Grok version of a spout? What the hell are you talking about?
That will just respond whenever you ask it something and otherwise leave you the fuck alone?
I don't know. Actually, I don't know. Why don't you go to your Twitter machine and ask Grok a question?
Well, no, I'm thinking how, you know, like Google, how to Grok a spouse.
How to Grok
Or will I get some kind of agency coming down on you?
What?
See, if that's in your Google history,
you've lost me.
If they find a random spouse grokked somewhere, they may blame you.
Once again, ladies and gentlemen, Codecademy / JCE. Not exactly sure where we've gone, but Dave Meltzer versus the Machine.
Yes.
We will stay on top of this story and see what develops from here. Obviously, there are other companies with their own AI. Maybe Dave will form a close relationship with one of them. Jim, let's move on to the reviews because we gotta. WWE Saturday night's main event. The first one we've seen in a little while. And they had a big show live on NBC.
A really big shoe. I thought Ed Sullivan was on CBS now. This was on NBC. And it's the first one it's been like 3 months. Right? It hasn't been 40 years now. They've come back, but they were in Tampa. Sun was shining, the birds were singing, the weather was wonderful. And
Hogan couldn't be there. His son was getting married.
Well, yeah, they're right down the road from Hoganville, but Hogan didn't make an appearance again. Well, how many children does he have now that he's admitting to? Multiple weddings could occur. It's May. But no, they're in Tampa and they're leaning into the walk-ins. Boy, they love everybody walked in. We had a camera on everybody that walked into the fucking locker room. And old Joe Tessitore with the voiceover like he was prefacing the Super Bowl. Did you get the feeling that the Goodyear blimp should have been fucking crossing back and forth in the sky across the building? It was very grandiose and verbose, etc. But they're making it a big event, right? And then I like the open that they do where they do the retro VCR 80s footage. Of course, that's a 70s TV that they're using there. I mean, there was snazzier TVs in the 80s, but the retro VCR 80s open that they do with the old stars, and they go into the modern footage. The modern footage looks better, but the 80s had more stars. I think. But in the modern footage, to be honest, there's a nice shot of a guy wearing a Cornette face t-shirt. Which, now that I've said that, it probably won't make the fucking cut the next time around.
Oh, I didn't see that in the open of the show in the VHS.
Yes, they go to.
I didn't see.
Yeah, they go to the modern footage, goes to a crowd shot, and boom, and there's the fellow exhilarating himself with his arms up in the air, not down anywhere down. His arms were up in the air where everybody could see his hands. But he was exhilarating himself.
Hey, real quick on that topic, thank you to everyone who's a member of the Cult of Cornette who has gone to these events over the last few days, including Saturday night's main event, and sent in pictures of themselves at the event in a Jim Cornette shirt. We've had a few of them on the Cult of Cornette Facebook group, but it's very cool to see.
Yes, and I've been wondering where all my shirts went. Several people are on Facebook wearing my shirts, and I want them back. I'm getting cold here. It's fucking chilly. Dropped them off the dry cleaner. Next thing I know, they're gone. Anyway, so let's talk about Joe Tessitore, and who now his background is he has admitted to being a wrestling fan in the past. I don't know how far back that goes, but he was a regular sports announcer type fellow, correct? Came from ESPN
still
or one of the.
Still is, I believe.
Well, is he working on the side now in the real sports along with the WWE? I wouldn't think he'd have time.
Oh, I don't know if WWE's his only gig. I think he still does real sports.
Well,
real sports. I hate to say professional wrestling,
but now that there is such a fucking divide now. But anyway, I'm wondering, does he understand? He's got to be standing there next to Jesse Ventura going, my God, they have paired me to try to get a broadcast out of the Crypt Keeper. Why does he understand Jesse's cultural significance? Or is he, I'm wondering, is he coming into this going, what the fuck?
If he's a wrestling fan, he should.
Well, I don't know. He's been a wrestling fan since the fucking. Was he an old days wrestling fan, or has he come along in the modern times? He seems to be an older fellow. But...
See, Jesse Ventura needs someone to play off. That's the best way to use him. That's the way Vince McMahon worked with him. That's the way Gorilla Monsoon worked with him. And some of these guys may not really know how to play off him. And it was an interesting journey for Jesse Ventura.
Well, now, to be fair, what way is there to play off of this? We should get Grandpa his meds early next year or next time. How do you, are people writing some of these little comedic lines that Jesse tries to drop in and he's just not delivering them right? Because I can't imagine this would be in the final script, as they say in showbiz. He's meandering off into fucking tangents, and I knew, Brian, I could feel it in my bones as soon as he did the intro, the stand-up where he said, talking about the cage match, they're going to stay inside there. Somebody's going to win inside the cage. I said, he doesn't know what they're going to fucking do, does he? And he worked there. But is it like he can remember the cage matches in Portland in the 70s, but he can't remember 1987 in the Garden?
Well, we could just talk about this here, even though it took place later when he was on commentary.
Well, let's just flip. I'm going to flip ahead in my notes to that.
He made a few comments about how, NBC would never allow a cage match. He was doing commentary for the cage matches. Orndorff and Hogan was one of the more famous things from that era. They used that on a bunch of commercial tapes.
Hogan and Bossman.
And then Hogan and Bossman in 89. When I was a kid, that's all people talked about. He superplexed him off the top of the cage. Even when you say it, it sounds ridiculous. Like, no way. And that's what he did. He fucking did it.
Yeah, hey, if you think only the kids were talking about it, fucking out, because it was Bubba. I watched it, and he called me the next day and said, "Did you see the superplex I took off the top of the cage?" Because that bump made him like fucking $25,000 or whatever the fuck it was.
And Ventura was there. I mean, that was a really memorable Saturday night's main event.
And
Zeus was in front of the cage to confront Hogan before the match.
So, since we are into talking about this, to keep the not to be broken up with the subject matter. So Jesse had prefaced that, and then of course they pitched to Cole and McAfee, who do the broadcast at ringside, and you got Joe and you got Jesse at the podium up there. But then apparently the deal is they put Jesse on color in one match per show. And so they showed video, by the way, of Jesse in 1986 in the WWF working with Plowboy Frazier. Did you see that? Uncle Elmer.
I remember the match. It was the Hillbillies against Jesse Ventura, who had already been a commentator. It was one of his last matches, if not the last match, and Piper and Orton.
And bless Plowboy's heart that he still makes network television in the 2020s. If somebody had told him that in the actually, he was egotistical enough, he would have believed it. But anyway,
it's just crazy to think of Jesse Ventura versus Plowboy Frazier on national TV.
And my God, and what should the penalty have been for booking that? But when Ventura at ringside joins Cole and McAfee, the first thing, he wouldn't stop talking over the ring announcer. What's her name? Can't remember her name. But nevertheless, she's trying to lay out the rules of the cage for the people, Brian, for the people. But Jesse was nattering back and forth at Cole and McAfee. And so he wasn't listening. So here's another thing. They're having the cage match with Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre, where he, at the start, why did the producer, whoever is producifying these things in the truck, not in the first break or when they got off camera with Jesse, not say to Jesse, remember they could escape the cage or whatever, who knows? So now he's glossed over the fucking instructions again. And plus it's bad television because she was on the PA system. She was talking to the people. Why would the commentator not stop fucking talking? Help me.
To be fair, McAfee chirps up a lot when other people are on the mic or talking or other things are happening. That's happened a bit lately. With Jesse Ventura,
well, no, this was again, like an entire stream of conversation.
Do you remember what he was arguing about? I don't even know if arguing is the word. He said from that Uncle Elmer clip, I was the only announcer to ever be an announcer and then wrestle and then announce.
Yes.
And then McAfee's like, well, McAfee did it. And then he turns to Cole, not knowing anything about Michael Cole's history. And Michael Cole's like, well, I did too. And Jesse goes, who did you wrestle? And Cole should have said the answer. He didn't, because the answer would have been Jerry Lawler.
Yeah.
And he didn't say it because Ventura would have flipped if he had heard that. that was a WrestleMania match, Michael Cole versus Jerry Lawler. But yeah, it started off, you could tell that there was an issue meshing, and the issue is not Cole and McAfee, who, I'm not a big fan of them necessarily, but they have good chemistry together. No one was on the same plane as Jesse, seemingly.
No one was on the same plane because I think the plane has run out of gas.
Was there no one in the headset like saying, Jesse?
Again, that's... It's hard to think that there's not, because of the professionalism normally associated with this broadcast, unless is that part of the deal that you can't fucking tell Jesse what to say or whatever, or you got to give him this in writing 6 hours beforehand. I don't know. But again, so there the cage match starts they have a jump start at the door where Drew jumps him and they fight on the floor. And then, of course, they got to throw a couple of chairs into the cage, and then the door gets closed. And they have a back and forth fight. Okay, here we go. And they go to break in 2 minutes. And, this is going to be a theme throughout this show. But here's the first comparison with the two products. There were a couple matches on this show I would have liked to have seen a little bit more of. At least not necessarily for them to be longer, just not to have a fucking 4.5-minute commercial break in the middle, to where you at least saw what the fuck. And on the other promotions offering, I was willing to fucking turn to crime and mug senior citizens to goddamn get some of these matches to fucking stop. So there's a wide gap in between the two there that somebody could certainly fill that hole. But when they came back, after the break, they're kind of already going into their fucking, their finish. Priest made a comeback, and Priest again was climbing to the top. He was obviously trying to escape. And here's where, and I don't know why Jesse wasn't picking up on this yet, but also, what the fuck? The babyface is trying to get away from the heel. This doesn't. No, you don't want to see Priest try to fucking get out. And Bruno got away with it because he soundly thrashed fucking the heel, the villain, and then walked out the door triumphant when the guy was fucking laying there, because that was the rules of that time. But now that there's a pin involved, that's part of the fucking deal. And especially if you haven't convincingly beat the fuck out of the guy first. I'll get to that in a minute. Drew superplexed Priest off the top of the cage, which basically the way they did it that way is because Priest was the one that wanted to take the superplex. And Drew was the one that said, okay, I'll give it. But I wrote, who's the baby face? And then, they had the big 1-2 and some false finishes, and Drew beat the shit out of Priest with a chair. And then Priest came back with a chair. And then Priest went for the concerto and hit it on Drew McIntyre. And it looked fake, as it always does whenever anybody hits anybody with that fucking thing. But Priest has got, okay, Drew McIntyre's this fucking asshole that's been tormenting young Priest. And he's got him there, and he caves his head in with a chair, and he can't turn him over and cover him with a fucking hand on his chest or a finger in his fucking nose or whatever. 1, 2, 3. He stands up and walks out the door. And, well, he stands up and he walks to the door, and as he's going through the open door, he thinks about it. The fans in the building are booing, like, no, where the fuck are you going? Beat the fucking guy. And he thinks about it, and then he steps down and wins. And Brian, before we talk about Jesse Ventura's reaction to that, I've got to get your thoughts on the match and the finish.
You almost felt like it was a double turn, executed really poorly. Because Priest certainly seemed like a heel. And I had nothing but sympathy for McIntyre at the end.
Yes.
Was it a double turn?
I don't think it was supposed to be.
Him walking out of the cage, just that alone, the way he did it. I don't know. He deprived the fans.
The announcers were like trying to sell it as, well, he has, gotten his revenge by soundly thrashing yonder varlet or whatever. But there was hardly any of the match on fucking television. And then what we saw that made Priest look not weak, just stupid, confusing, prickish. possibly cowardly a little earlier, and then at the end, just what the fuck? Blah.
I think this whole feud has kind of been blah. And they've had like big matches and seems like several blow-off matches potentially. They've been a part of several multi-man matches, but
Drew McIntyre is a star. Why would you do it? Isn't it better to have fucking Drew McIntyre get outsmarted in some kind of way and fucking dives into the cage and fucking bounces off and gets pinned in a flash by Damian Priest than have him laid out, have his fucking head caved in and walked off on like a goddamn yesterday's Twinkie wrapper in the fucking street of life? Wouldn't it be? I don't. What? Hey, Mo.
Should McIntyre be a babyface right now? Just based on the way everyone's currently aligned on the roster?
No, because I like him so much more as what he's been doing, just not this. Why, again, give him fucking alleged brain damage and just leave him laying to save him from getting pinned? What?
And I feel like it's 2 years straight of saying this, or maybe a little less, I don't know. How many times can you say they got to do something different with Priest now? They got to do something different with Priest. I still don't care. At this point, put him in a different color, just anything different. And what's he going to do now? Maybe as a heel, he can get fired up. I kind of think we're exhausted at him as a babyface who doesn't really do anything.
Well, I think that this wasn't meant to turn him heel, but it might have. So maybe they can figure out a way to further that. But, much like many of the archdioceses around the country, we need a new priest. But anyway, back to the finish of the cage match. Jesse Ventura watched Damian Priest walk out at Boom and the bell ring, and it was like aliens from another world had landed. What the fuck? If he could have said fuck, how do you win? This is a quote. I wrote it down. How do you win it going out the door? This is another quote. What kind of BS is that? You can walk out the door? They've been doing it like this for 40 fucking years. I can't take it. And he wouldn't get off it. And at that point, unless he's just turned, there's a thing where they're trying to talk to you into your headset from the truck, but you can turn their volume down, and he had to because he was going on and on. And then he started rolling his eyes. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it? That's a quote. That is a quote. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it? Why did he have his limo driver pull up and pick him up at the door? And they couldn't stop him. They couldn't talk over him. Oh my God. Yeah, that was the greatest shit I've ever heard. He just shit all over it. I've heard wrestling promoters do promos on TV about the opposition running against him in a town that was more professional and fucking favorable than that fit. Jesse didn't like that fucking finish. What? You said on the first couple of Saturday nights made of it. Oh, but Jesse makes it. He's the era, the name. It's the Do we need to maybe ask Jesse to watch at home next time?
I don't know. It did seem like he aged like 10 years between the last next main event and this one.
He was dehydrated. Somebody needs to fucking put a garden hose up his ass and fill him up with another 60 pounds of water.
He got there. He was a part of the opening thing with Joe Tessitore, or whatever his name is. I think that is his name. Joe Tessitore.
Yes, Tessitore.
And then later on, so there's a gap right there. Where was he at catering? Where was he? Later on, he comes out for commentary where he seemingly has no idea the rules of a cage match, including the ones he called. I believe Hogan used to try to make it dramatic and go over the top. Bruno always left through the door and just lifted his arms up. Andre left through the door. I mean, we've seen a lot of these matches. Jesse called some of them. He had no idea. No one clued him in. And then Jesse just decided, I mean, it's so over the top. I mean, it would almost make you think they were okay with it. But during that entire match, no one gave him a heads up, like, on what's going on or anything. It's questionable just the way it happened. But it was great.
I can't explain it, but I guarantee you, when in the truck they were hearing what kind of BS is that? You could walk out the door. Boy, that was exciting, wasn't it? And the fact that the other announcers are trying to go somewhere else, somebody was saying, lay out Jesse, lay out Jesse.
They should have him do more commentary. The voice of the fans. He tells it like it is. This is BS. It would have been great if he asked for a refund. You should give the fans back their money.
Ixnay on the fund, Ray.
Listen, Jesse, you succeeded in running Hogan away, but now we got to let you go.
Anyway, but the problem, okay, here was my summation of this in the notes. There wasn't 10 minutes of the match on the air. It was a rotten finish. It switched Priest heel and they beat Drew McIntyre. Well, holy shit. So but that was in the middle of the show. We wanted to lead with that because of Jesse's absolute astonishment and gobsmackery that they would allow such a thing to happen in one of their matches on the program that a company he's been associated with on and off for 45 fucking years.
They should have had him on every match on this show.
Oh, good Lord. All right, but what they opened with, Brian, I'll have you know, good sir, they opened hot. They wanted to catch people right off the bat. Here comes Seth, Franklin Rollins, and his henchman now, Braun Breaker and Paul E. Danger Heyman. And they look fucking great together. They look just fabulous, just swell. And this is the new top heel. Is this going to be the new bloodline without being a bloodline? It's a new top heel stable, which we're fortunate to live in these times, Brian. And then they bring Sammy out because he's very popular. And they start chanting right away, CM Punk, and then Mussolini in Tampa Bay. He was very close to that. The Bay is very close to where they are. The building is very close to the water. And the baby faces hit the ring and jump start it, and they get in a four-way. And I mentioned this earlier, but especially if you're just popping in on the YouTube, folks, they had a little flurry and they stop Sammy, and Braun clotheslines him over the desk, and they go to the break in like, what, a minute and a fucking half or whatever. And by the time they come back, they've gotten the heat on Sammy, but Sammy hits a hot tag, and it's a hot tag. I'm not just saying that sarcastically. He set it up and boom, he hit it. It got a big pop. And Punk makes a comeback and goes through some false finishes. But Seth fucking caught him with a pedigree and sidelined him, and Sammy saved, and it was Sammy and Braun, and he hit a dive, and there was another break. I'm like, what? They just came fucking back. And by the time they come back, they're ready to go. I'm like, God damn it. This is like when the reception used to be bad late at night, Brian, when I was trying to get Bruiser's TV from Channel 4 in Bloomington, Indiana, and I hadn't put my big antenna up yet, and I was still dealing with the rabbit ears, and it would waver in and out when Baron von Raschke had the claw on Bob Ellis. But finally, then they hit some simultaneous cold tags, which I wasn't as thrilled about. And Sammy made the big comeback on Braun and went for the kick, and Paul grabbed his leg. The managers are interfering again. It warms the potential pimple on my taint to see stuff like that. And so as the referee and Sammy are with Paul, Bronson Reed appears at ringside and spears CM Punk through the barricade. And then Sammy is aghast and alone, and Braun Breaker speared Sammy. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And I enjoyed what I saw of this, and I could have seen maybe 3 or 4 more minutes of it if they would have been so kind as to give it to me. But and boom, they did that, and then Reed came in, and Seth hugged him, and it got a big pop because now people can see this modern, new faction forming. And Bronson Reed shook hands with Braun Breaker. Of course, this Seth's opening line always from now on every week has to be, "This is my friend Braun and my other friend Braun." And they all raised their hands, and Punk went after Paul like he was going to pull him down by the leg. And the heels grabbed Punk and held him out, and Bronson Reed
Paul did a splash. Oh, Bronson Reed.
No, Bronson. No, they don't want to kill Punk, for fuck's sake. He's still got time on his contract. They let Bronson Reed do it. If they want to get rid of somebody, they'll let Heyman fall on it. But it was okay. Like I said, I'd like seeing a little bit more of it. Because that was kind of the thing I was interested in of the night. But your thoughts?
I never really thought about it. They really should use Heyman's girth and have him do a splash, even if he can't get off the ground, just standing and just kind of fall.
No. The injury rate would be, hey, he could find some way to fucking be dangerous when he weighed 196 pounds. Unintentionally, but still.
I thought the match was all right. I like the Bronson Reed surprise because it was a surprise to me. I forgot about him. Not in a bad way, but he had been gone for a while. He's been injured. I wasn't thinking he's due to return. So that's the kind of surprise that I like when I don't anticipate it at all. And of course, there's the history with him and Rollins. He's the one who took out Rollins when Rollins was off for a while. Injured for a while.
Yes. And that's why they teased the little stare down there for a second and then had the big hug to show everybody they're all on the same page. And it's a shocking formation of this group and everything. And there's Paulie again smiling. The jowls are flapping in the breeze. He's happy about this whole thing. So I like the group. And I know it's a network TV special. I know it's basically to promote their regular programs, but they could have easily eliminated having to go to Zelina and Chelsea Green and given that 6 minutes plus entrances to another one of these matches, or probably 2, because I think the main event might have got 4 minutes on the air, but we'll get there. Anyhow, allow me to turn the page to the aforementioned.
Is Punk injured? Is they going to do when I say injured, not for real, but is Punk going to be off for a while?
Well, I don't know. Right? I haven't checked in with him. He usually emails me his schedule for the month so I can, know how to book his limos. How do I know what they're going to do?
They brought Bronson Reed back and he gave him the big splash. The last time we saw him do that, he took Seth Rollins out of commission.
Well, no,
they built it up as being a dangerous move that could hurt. It took Braun Strowman out of the company. That move.
Well, no, part of that was, self-inflicted by Braun from
Braun
being too highly paid, I think.
But Braun from Braun?
To Braun from Braun. No, didn't they? He splashed Seth about 3 or 4 times. He just gave Punk the one here. So I think he'll be okay by next week, won't he? Isn't it about a week per splash?
Unless he has a film roll or something.
Well, in that case, then they ought to go and see him show up to shoot the movie with his ribs taped up.
Well, who knows? But back to the exciting Zelina Vega versus Chelsea Green match you were going to go to.
Yes, it lasted about 6 minutes. And did you see? Now I guess they say it's broken, or at least they said that on the Twitter. But right at the finish, Zelina tries a 619 on Chelsea, and she got completely hung up in the ropes to where her feet didn't go anywhere near Chelsea's face. So as she's hanging there in the ropes, she just reached her right foot out and boop, just kicked fucking Chelsea right in the goddamn nose, right in the fucking face. Boom. And Chelsea grabs it and goes backward. And in a second, she's bleeding. She got a definite bloody nose, and apparently they've diagnosed it on Twitter. She did, at least, as being broken. But it was so funny because she's already. There's no way that anybody's going to buy this. That she's already missed this thing and gotten hung up, obviously. And then she just said, "Well, there she is." Bam! Just kicked her right in the fucking face. And then gave her a sunset flip power bomb off the turnbuckle. 1, 2, 3. So that did her wonders too, I'm sure. I wonder if she could break her nose and give her brain damage in the same match. Did I miss anything about that, Brian?
No, I don't think so.
Tell me that Jimmy Hart at ringside did not look exactly the same as Jimmy Hart on a clip from Saturday Night's Main Event in 1986.
I mean, for the most part.
There was no difference.
He's aged incredibly well. Is that the same Jimmy Hart who was last seen on the show getting booed with Hulk Hogan?
Yes. He had to have some of the heat washed off him. So he got to be there with Bushwhacker Luke. Jesus Christ. Bushwhacker Luke at ringside, or Butch. Which was it, Butch or was it Luke? Jesus Christ! Now
it was Luke. Butch is dead.
It was Luke. That's what I'm saying. But when I said Butchwhacker instead of Bushwhacker, that threw me off the goddamn deal.
Oh man, you know what I loved in Memphis? Real quick aside here, when they had the thing where Jimmy Hart with Bobby and Coco had like a little mini feud with the sheep herders of Boyd and Williams, and they're cutting promos on each other like face to face in a sense. Jimmy Hart's in the ring and Jonathan Boyd's on the mic by Lance. It was great. It was heel versus heel, but I loved it.
Well, Jonathan Boyd was so cranky. He was believable that he would be mad at anybody, heel, babyface, or anybody else. And Jimmy, again, people could like him as long as he was saying something that he would normally say about people that they didn't like. But then he could turn it around. But nevertheless, they were at ringside, and so was Vikingo. Old Vikingo has made the big jump over there to the big time. And it was 9 o'clock now after those, seriously, after the tag team match, which we barely got 10 minutes of on the air, and Chelsea and Zelina, it was the 9 o'clock hour. And it was time for John Cena's entrance. And John Cena sucks. John Cena sucks. And the match with R-Truth. And Brian, I will defend for a second why that I'm not offended by them having this match, booking this match, etc. in theory and principle. Because they want to be able to advertise John Cena on network television special in prime time for ratings, and also to promote what they've got going on with his retirement tour and the whole 9 yards. But at the same time, they don't want him going out there and wrestling a goddamn strenuous pay-per-view main event fucking match against a top guy and give that away for free, or burn him out, or it out, or somebody gets hurt. So there is some level of connection from the fantasy universe that R-Truth lives in, somewhere there within the more overall broad WWE universe, and Cena, to where they can have the match, and it's an easy, short match where John doesn't get hurt. He beats a popular guy. You don't waste a money match. But I think, boy, having said that, even that underperformed the in-ring expectations. Because Cena can't throw a punch anymore. And the slow, deliberate heat was both slow and deliberate. And then when R-Truth would foil an attitude adjustment and give him the shoulder tackles like Cena does and the spinning suplex, R-Truth picked him up and spun him around and was holding him almost till he was about 2 feet off the mat. And John still had his fucking arm down, like, block this giant fall. I believe Aunt Lola could have taken that bump. But the people that were there were buying this. When R-Truth went for the "you can't see me" and it got a huge pop and he hit it. And then he hit the attitude adjustment and he got the STF and Cena had to get to the ropes. And then it was time for him to walk. Time for him to go home. Which after they pretty much walked, as I said, walked through this thing, the match. I mean, again, the people live liked it. It was "Let's go Cena, Cena sucks," and "You can't wrestle, yes you can." But boy, they should have just gone ahead and rolled some bubble wrap out on the canvas. So finally, Cena posted R-Truth and got the title belt, and the referee was just staring at him. He wasn't even going over giving him any bullshit. Like, don't you dare use that. He was just staring from the corner like, And R-Truth then saw Cena coming at him with the belt, and Cena froze, and they had like a stare down. And it was like Cena was sheepish, like, oh, I don't want to hit you after all. And Cena gave the belt back to the referee, who turned to hand it out, and Cena kicked R-Truth in the balls and hit him with the attitude adjustment 1, 2, 3. And I'm thinking you could have done that without burying the referee. Just kick him in the fucking balls. I don't. And then he knocked him out with the fucking belt and left. The end. Is that all there is?
You talking about the Cena comeback or the match?
Well, all of it.
I mean, it makes sense to do something with R-Truth in a sense to finish it off if this is Cena's last year. You know, I forgot how soft Cena was working the last several years as a regular performer. It really stands out. Always has great facial expressions.
Yes.
It's just you're looking at what he's doing and you're like, you know, that's kind of how I wrestle with my kids. Like, you know, no one's going to get hurt now.
And to be quite honest with you, with the amount of money he has at his age, I don't blame him. I wouldn't do things I used to do either. But
I'm starting to count down those dates. Like I'm getting a little fed up with a lot of the booking has just been off this whole year for me as a fan. I know a lot of other people are just as happy as they've ever been, and there are things that on the horizon could be great. The Heyman group, whatever it is.
The HHG group, wasn't
That's
that what it
right.
was?
That's right.
The corporate owners of ECW at one point.
Jacob Fatu. I mean, there are things I like and things I want to see how they're going to play out, and big events I'm sure will be great, but by and large, this year for me, and it's all really centered around the Cena booking. And it's not just all The Rock. The Rock thing threw it off in the wrong direction, but Cena's had strong performances as a heel that the more and more you see them, the more they feel like performances. Because we've had a lot of them that go on way too long, and there's just nothing really exciting. I mean, we'll talk about what happens later on, but him interacting with Cody again, okay, there's something, but it feels like there's something lacking from the Cena stuff and from just everything show-wide for me right now.
It's just a little...
Does it feel off to you? Does it feel off to you, the whole Cena run? Or at least since WrestleMania? I mean, just what do you think?
Well, not necessarily off, just uninspiring. Just
uninspired, maybe. Yeah.
Uninspired. And that's the thing is, as we're illustrating here, you got one show where there's a few things you might like to have seen a little bit more of, but mostly it's like, eh. And then as we'll get to the other show, it's like, oh my God, please make it stop over and over, hours and hours. We've seen everything. My God, you've desecrated the corpse. It if there could just be something in that happy little sweet spot, you think, right in the middle. Anyway, speaking of a sweet spot, Leilani Kai was at ringside. Nice to see her. And Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda, both of them were looking very rotunda. I'm the only guy in the wrestling business that got out of the business and lost weight. Now I'd amongst all of my contemporaries, I would be one of the fucking people that would tipple the scale at the least amount these days.
It was nice to see Leilani Kai. I don't think they've ever really had her at one of these things, but she seemed delighted to be there, or as happy as could be.
She's a happy person. I was glad to see
Yeah,
her.
it's always nice when you see someone who's not one of the usual suspects and they actually seem like they appreciate being there. And Wyndham and Rotunda, it's just nice to see they're still here.
Well, and also, and it was close because they're right down the road.
Are they? Does Barry Windham? I don't want to get into where he
don't-
lives now.
I-
I'm not sure.
I don't. I'm not. I'm not allowed under court order to reveal that at any rate. So then, and you could tell, I think they were running a little long because most of Jey Uso's entrance was in break. You saw him coming in, and he had a long way to go, and they had to get this thing going because they had 2 hours, and this was the 5th match. And by the time they got him in and rung the bell, Jey Uso and Logan Paul for the world title, the bell rang at 9:50 p.m. Eastern. We're barely 10 minutes on the air left, so they opened up fast, went 1 minute, Logan Paul did a dive, and they went to the break. There was 8 minutes left on the air when they went to the break. And they came back. It was a short break, I believe, only about 2.5 minutes. But when they come back, Jay had already made the comeback and the ass in the face. And they're doing false finishes. And they did a number of false finishes. Logan Paul got one, and Jey Uso got one, and got another one. And then they had pulled the turnbuckle pad off, Logan Paul had on one of the middle turnbuckles. And Logan Paul ran Uso into that and then hit him with the knockout punch and got a 2 count. That old knockout punch ain't what it used to be. And then Uso hits a super kick and goes to the top and hits a big splash and 1, 2, and all of a sudden the referee whoosh, gets whisked out of the ring like a tablecloth, and it's John Cena, pulled him out on the floor and jumped into the ring and started beating the shit out of Jay. And then music plays, and here comes Cody. And he hits the ring and he gets on John Cena. And he hit the crossroads for the first time ever when he hit his back, meaning Cody. Cena still had about another 30 seconds before he landed. He just landed on top of boom and walked off. And then Jay speared Logan Paul and hit the splash off the top, and the referee counted 1, 2, 3, despite being pulled out on the floor by the aforementioned John Cena. And then so Jay won, and Cody got on a microphone and says, "You've ruined enough," and my DVR froze. So they were right down to the nub on time. Have you ever seen a more rushed match than this as a main event on a network TV special?
Well, it definitely seemed like they were going long when they went to the main event. And I looked at the clock. I was like, oh my God, what's on at 10? And then I realized, yeah, there is programming on at 10, and it's NBC's like, it was Dateline or something. And they were right at the limit, if not a little bit past it. And they set up the match for Money in the Bank. Cody Rhodes' return match will be teaming with Jey Uso against John Cena and Logan Paul. What do you think?
Well, that's all fine. I'm fine with that. I would have liked to have seen more than 4 minutes of this fucking match on the air and try to get the angle in at the end when you've got 2 fucking hours. Get the angle in at the end with enough time that the announcers can reinforce it for 30 seconds and my DVR can have a chance to fucking do its temperamental shit. But this was right down to the nub.
Yeah, you know NBC put a lot of commercials in when TKO said, this is too commercialized.
But that was Saturday night's main event, and I would like to see the tag team match. I'd like to have seen a little bit more of some of these things just for the sake of it. It was, again, it's like you're either starved or you're force-fed to the point of nausea.
Well, we'll see what happens. Of course, we're on the road to Money in the Bank. We'll hopefully see Jesse Ventura again on this show. That would be a awful way for his swan song to transpire.
I think if to see Jesse in the future, I think we need to find that particular home that he'll be residing in for dealing with some of his dementia-related issues.
Oh, stop it. Will you stop it, dementia-related issues?
I think that there'll be a day where we can bring Governor Jesse some
I've got more important things on my mind, like MI5.
Yeah, well, he's going to have some MIs up his yin-yang as they're testing him for the cognitive decline that he's suffering. So I think we need to bring Jesse some peach cobbler every Sunday afternoon in the new home they're putting him in.
Well, maybe I would still watch him as a commentator, but that was Saturday night's main event. And of course, Jim, if you watch John Cena here, you may watch him and go, that man is not snug. That man does not squeeze a headlock. That man does not grip a crossface. It's wonderful for his opponents. They don't have to worry about a cauliflower ear from working with Mr. Cena. And if they had one, they may have hearing loss. And of course, hearing loss inflicts so many, if inflict is in fact the word we want to use here, all throughout the land.
It inflicts
there are so many who have hearing loss from everyday activity. And of course, some are, I guess, just born with it. Well, not I guess, they are. We're talking about you, mom and pop, or whoever you are at home, all alone. Maybe you're by yourself. But hearing is something that can escort you throughout the rest of your way, listening to music, podcasts, and of course, everyday conversation. Jim, I'm sure you have something to say about MD hearing.
It's hard to hear things when you can't hear. That's why that you need to hear me now. Well, that's a good question, Brian. How are the folks hearing me now? If the folks that need hearing aids because they can't hear, how are they hearing me now if they still need the hearing aid? So I can tell them about the hearing aid that they so desperately need. It's all a vicious catch-22, ladies and gentlemen. But I'll tell you one thing, regardless of the stiffness of the headlocks, I don't know if somebody can just take a good slap to the side of the head and be benefited by MD hearing. But if you're like so many Americans or other peoples of other lands around the world, and you can't afford gas and food, and everything's getting more expensive, and everything's inflation, and you just say, I'm just going to put off the hearing aid thing. It's too expensive. Well, that's where MD hearing comes into play, because the prices may be crazy at the clinics or the doctor's receptacles at the various, is that a word, Brian? Like inflicts? If you're having inflicted
doctor's
receptacles, no, you don't need to do that anymore. MD hearing.
You don't need to do that anymore. No,
you don't need to do that anymore, because MD hearing is featuring low cost, high quality hearing aids. $297 for a pair of hearing aids this good is absolutely just burjork, just completely crazy, go mad nuts. And they've recently cut their prices to make these more affordable to the general public, because the general public can't hear it thunder. That's why you're seeing a lot more people run down in the streets, Brian, because they can't hear when the guy honks his horn or screams, get out of the fucking way, I'm going to run you down, and boom.
For the record, we don't have any evidence to show that there is any
statistics prove that most people that are run down at a high rate of speed don't. No, I'm telling you,
if you had those statistics, it could possibly prove that. You don't. It won't.
if this is true, the statistics are that most people that are run down at a high rate of speed by a motor vehicle do not survive. I'm just telling you. That's science right there. It's the science of the lambs. So, folks,
you sounded serious. You actually made me believe you for a second, and then the science of the lambs.
Well, because it's true. Think about it. And the folks at MD Hearing want you to be able to afford these. And as I mentioned, I've given a pair to Stacy's stepfather, who has a little problem with the hearing there. And now he hates the whole family. He hears everything that we say about him. But folks, MD Hearing was founded by an ENT surgeon who saw how many of his patients needed hearing aids but couldn't afford them. And that's why he wanted to make his mission developing a quality hearing aid that anybody could afford. And he has done so here because they've sold over 2 million hearing aids. Did you know that 2 million people were not just trying to imitate Steve Austin when they said, what? 2 million hearing aids they've sold.
Those were potential clients for MD Hearing, and hopefully they hear this
They couldn't hear a goddamn. They kept saying, turn it up. What? What? Turn it up. We can't hear you, goddammit. I tell Stace that all the time. She believes me too.
You know, I hate to cost us any business, but MD Hearing should probably contact Steve Austin about doing commercials. Just based off the what thing.
But he would charge so much that they would take the money they're paying us and pay him, and then we'd be out in the cold. And then we'd be saying, what?
What?
Folks, they offer a 45-day risk-free trial with a 100% money-back guarantee so that you can sample this fine product before you fully commit to a lifelong relationship, and you have confidence that they're not going to hornswoggle you. And they were just selected to be the hearing aid supplier for top Medicare Advantage plans. So they're a brand you can trust because they're hooked in with the babyface part of the government, Medicare. Get the high quality, affordable hearing aids you deserve with MD Hearing, folks. Go to Shop MD Hearing and use the promo code JCE to get a pair of hearing aids for just $297. That's $150 less an ear, for heaven's sake. As a matter of fact, if you have recently lost an ear in some type of, wrestling ring-related catastrophe like Mick Foley, contact them and see if they'll just sell you one, because why the fuck would they penalize you? That's, that'd be anti-discrimination laws of some kind. One-eared people unite. ShopMDHearing.com and use the promo code JCE. Hearing aids, just $297 if you need both, and a free extra charging case. That's a $100 value. They're throwing that in there. Brian, do you think if you only needed one, will they work with you?
Well, you buy the pair, you have the pair. Of course, a lot of us have hearing loss. I have hearing loss from years ago into concerts and being way too careless about my ears. And of course, now I have a way to hear everything.
You just let your ears go when you were younger, just go everywhere, unaccompanied, and associate with a lower class of people.
Now they have MD Hearing to accompany them. Jim, what's that promo code one last time?
JCE.
MDhearing.com/JCE.
Well, no, shopmdhearing.com, but you asked for the promo code. You didn't specify you wanted the whole shebang.
Jim,
there.
What's that shebang website?
Well, shapoopy, go to shopmdhearing.com and use the promo code JCE to get the pair of hearing aids and a charging case, $297. That's $149 per ear. One-eared people inquire separately.
All right, we now move on to the next portion of the show. Obviously, based on that music, it's the clown show portion of the show.
When last we left Wappinger Falls, old Widow Trudel was busy baking cookies while Mr. Trudel was fiddling in the corn shed with fucking the maid.
Or something like that is exactly what transpired on pay-per-view. Jim, let's talk about AEW Double or Nothing 2025. They certainly, on commentary, were making out like this is their big event. I always think All In or All Out is the big one, but I guess this is their big one. And it happens.
Aren't they all the big ones? They're the long ones. They got to be the big ones too.
Well, what they don't have in girth, they make up for in length.
Well, and sometimes that can be painful. And boy, howdy, that prophecy came true here. My God, as we were talking about the Saturday night's main event, boy, it would have been nice to see a couple more minutes of a few of those matches that we, between commercial breaks and time constraints, only a 2-hour program. We got like 6 minutes of match. Over here, they got no shortage of the matches. This pay-per-view, and you say it's their big one. Again, Memorial Day weekend is how they've chosen their big one. And they're still on the gambling motif, regardless of what location that they're in, whether it's casino oriented or not. But 4.5 hours on the official pay-per-view. And then the countdown show, as it's listed on my cable provider, boy, there's 0 hour, whatever. There's another 1.5 hours. They only had 2 matches this time. Sometimes they've had 4.
You didn't see any of the pre-show?
No, I've got the results here.
No, but did you see any of it?
I did not see any of it because I've got the results.
Well, beyond the results, there was one moment I have to mention. So, it's hosted by RJ City, Renee Paquette, and Jeff Jarrett. And,
good Lord.
That's Jeff's role now. He didn't get his retirement match, so instead he's doing the pre-show. He's one of 3. And as this triad is talking about the night's events, in between video packages and stuff, all of a sudden they're joined by Lance Archer, the big bad heel from the Don Callis family. And then he just starts doing a preview for the pay-per-view. I wanted you to see just that one thing because I found it so funny because, he's big and mean, but then he's just like, and that should be a big bad match. He just starts talking about the pay-per-view like they are.
Well, and let's analyze these contests, Renee.
And he wasn't bad, other than the fact he's 7 feet tall, so it kind of throws off the camera has to move back a little. He wasn't bad.
Well, on the pre-show, Harley Cameron and Anna Jay beat Megan Brain and Penelope Pitstop. And then I wanted to have time to go back and watch this one, Brian. Apparently, AR Fox, Commander, Hologram, and Bandito took the measure of Trent, Leo Rush, Action Andretti, and Rocky Romero. Just to get people warmed up into the mood to see the 11 matches they're going to see on the pay-per-view. And did I mention it was 4.5 hours long, the pay-per-view. Every match was like they were stalling for time until the next match got there in the bad weather. Nothing can end
funny.
Anything.
That's funny.
Well, no. Think about it. That's the only time I would ever encounter a situation like this where you made your show go 4.5 hours on fucking purpose.
Is it just me or is this Jim Powers match 45 minutes?
Yeah, I think you know what? At the Super Bowl of wrestling in Knoxville, I think we went 4 hours because I couldn't get anybody to goddamn calm down because the place was packed. But nevertheless, they were in Glendale, Arizona. I guess that's outer Phoenix. And Brad, the theme of this show, to me, to be quite honest with you, was jackass wrestling. Not a description of I'm talking the television show. The childishness of it, what would stupid people do on video to get on jackass or ridiculousness or TikTok or whatever the kids are on these days doing stupid things? You go from the wrestling that is obviously making money hand over fist, but also is so produced and professional and homogenized and time to where you get to see everything but the fucking wrestling with all the stars that know what they're doing. Or you come over here to mostly indie-minded guys are going to do the indie-minded things, and there's no control over the show whatsoever from corporate. So you've got complete anarchy, literally, which is why they're making jokes about it, where these guys are just allowed to go out and do every goddamn thing that's ever been done in a fucking ring endlessly for as long as they want. And everybody gets to be the star of the show, which means there ain't no fucking stars. And by the time the shit that you actually sold people a ticket to maybe see happens, they've seen so much other shit go on that they just want to get out of there and get home and fucking take these goddamn tight fucking underwear off.
Yeah, I don't know how much of it there really was. Sometimes you see stuff, and if it's like by an account that typically is just making fun of AEW, sometimes you think, okay, maybe this is not the genuine artifact. But there was a lot of footage of people after the Anarchy match, before the main event of the show, the Owen Hart tournament final, just leaving. I don't know if everyone was just going to the bathroom because the experience they just went through.
Because they had an upset stomach. Well, no, after the Anarchy match, I wanted to leave and I was in my house.
I was pretty tired by that point.
So
there was no coming back at that point.
But it's just so much. So point being, they started out with something that we could ease into because it didn't take much of our time. The Owen Hart Tournament Ladies Division final with Mercedes Moon against Jamie Hayter. And it looked like an emaciated stripper fighting a kid's birthday clown. And I'm sorry, but I knew we had a long road to hoe, and I wasn't going to watch. I'm not even going to make a fucking pun. But I wasn't going to watch either one of these two when we had 4 hours of this shit to go. But I'll tell you, Brian, I stopped the fast forward twice, and every time one of these two was either potatoing the other one or landing on their head. And that's what the finish was. They went 22 minutes, bell to bell, on a show that was going to be 4 hours long plus. It's ridiculous that there's no more structure or professionalism put in place. But Mercedes, after they'd done every goddamn thing you could do, she small packaged her and super DDT'd her with a speed. This is the first time I've ever seen an attempted small package nearly lead to the end of a career. She just drove her down right on top of her fucking head. Boom, 1, 2, 3. I'm sure could have probably counted to 12. If it'd been me, I'd just be like, fuck, get the fuck off me. Did you see that small package?
Oh, I did. That was one of several spots that looked incredibly dangerous or close to dangerous over the last few days. I know you haven't seen Raw yet, but there's a spot with Chad Gable in that three-way match where it looked like he came as close as you can get to getting spiked on your head. Yeah, I saw it here. And this went a while, this match.
Yes. 22 minutes. I counted. And Josephine Camel wins with the small package. But that's otherwise than that.
Owen Hart tournament winner.
Manelli.
She's now the Owen Hart tournament winner.
Well, and that is expected because the match that they apparently have that they think is their golden goose of the women's division is her and Toni Storm, right?
That's
so
all
somehow
that's the match happening at Texas. Yeah.
Yes. So that's, what's going to happen. But I hope she doesn't fucking small package Toni Storm like that, for heaven's sake. Luther will need to be an orthopedic surgeon. He's a brain surgeon already, but I don't know about the other.
Who do you put over in that match?
Oh, God.
In terms of importance to AEW, not necessarily expense to AEW, who do you put over?
Toni Storm. the people sit, and in some cases, the closer she is to Boston, they politely tolerate her. But they sit on their hands when this, again, self-indulgent, insufferably egotistical fucking Mercedes moon is inflicted on them for all this length of time. They like Tony Storm. I think it's fucking goofy as shit, but they like Tony Storm. I would obviously put Tony Storm or anybody else right now over Mercedes.
All right, well, that took a turn. Just anyone can go over her now.
Or just anybody. Just beat her. Just beat her.
Well, I'm sure this kind of negative coverage.
Whip him like a dog.
As David Crockett would say. That's right.
Yes, as David Crockett would say it, a Monet mag is a rag. How about that? It was written as a gag.
You know, everyone makes fun of that line from David Crockett. It's you he's talking about, right? You're the one
yes, yes. Yeah. Whip him like a dog.
He got excited. Whip him like a dog.
That could be, that line could be, and by the way, that's from Superstars on the Superstation, the TBS special in 1986, but it could be superimposed over some type of German porn and get a whole new fucking thing going on. Well, we didn't get to watch German porn next. We got to watch FTR against Danny Garcia and Nigel McGuinness. And again, if this wasn't a 4-hour show, I would have paid more close attention to this, because I did think going in, it could be the only decent wrestling match tonight, except for Garcia's involvement. But again, this is more about what they're not doing than what they did. FTR's got Stokely, Garcia and Nigel have Daddy Mac, that fat-faced fuck. It's such a waste of FTR. They're wrestling. They've got a manager that hasn't been proven to be affiliated with any main event talent in the past. I know everybody's got to start somewhere, but you would hope that the guy that the starting manager got, or the team or whatever, the entity that the manager got put with, would be the thing to elevate him. But they're trying to rehabilitate FTR, who have been so misused and marginalized and just negligent. And they're wrestling Danny Garcia just because he's got nothing better to fucking do. And they still haven't figured out that ain't never going to fucking happen. Garcia is in no way ever a money fucking guy. He's not a legitimate main event talent. And all of the guys working with him, it's ridiculous. And like he's at the level of that. Nigel is a better fucking worker than Garcia, but he's a fucking announcer and has had like 2 matches in the last 15 years. And they've done an angle like that. Yes, I could understand if this was the days of some territory where the beloved, Lord Layton in Detroit for the Sheik came off the commentary desk to get back in the ring because he was such a big star. FTR is one of 2 tag teams on the roster that could perform in a main event setting. And they're doing this, and they're like the Hurt Syndicate, where they have no opponents that would mean anything in a money match. So they, fucking come up with this shit. And if it had been a TV match for 8 to 10 minutes, there you go. But 20 minutes. And again, they had not, Tony come in. No, I'm sorry, it was 22 minutes now that I'm checking my notes. But they've got Tony awkwardly trying to check on Nigel on the floor, and FTR is trying to bully him, but Tony looks like he doesn't know what to do because he doesn't know what to do. And Garcia fought both FTR members in an awkward way, but then they grabbed him and Dax pile drove him and got a 2 count. And then they spiked pile drove him and got a 2 count where he got his foot on the ropes. Why do they do pile drivers? You're pile driving the fucking Stack of dimes neck fucking blase mid-card guy multiple times to get 2 counts. And then they get the sharpshooter on Garcia, and Cash kept Fat Face and Nigel out, or Nigel was already on the floor. But Dax had to hold on to this forever until the referee rang the bell. So they'd done all this fucking up and down stuff throughout the match. And then they finally, after going 22 minutes with an announcer and a middle card guy, they do a stationary finish where pile drivers can't stop him, but a glorified Boston Crab. Why did they just beat him with a spike pile driver? Then he's got an out. And then it was more exciting than what they got. Help me understand this.
I can understand it. I don't understand why it went so long. I don't understand why they keep trying to elevate Garcia when it ain't going to work. Someone wrote in because now he's wearing like yellow trunks and red boots. What's this guy's name? Let's give him credit. Sean from New York. They should call him Sulk Hogan. Not bad.
But I mean, how did it even help him to yeah, I kicked out of the spike pile driver, but then the fucking sharpshooter. That was just, oh my gosh. I laid here for a minute and finally referee said, well, he ain't going to do shit.
Because there's no supervision. Who's supervising all this? Who's in charge? Who's in charge of the booking of all this? Who's the one saying what's going on? That's the person at fault. This is just none of it. And FTR, like you said with Stokely, how many start and stops has Stokely gotten in NXT and now here? Where it's like, okay, this guy seems to have a rap. All right, and now he's kind of a joke character. And now he's gone. Oh, now he's here again. And now he's managing women. And he's got some jokes, some witty line, and now he's gone. And now he's with FTR. It's a new thing. But it's a new heel thing. You don't have new baby faces to work with. And quite frankly, mid-card Daniel Garcia and Nigel, who, like you said, really hasn't done it. I mean, he hasn't done anything in 15 years other than 2 matches. It went forever. There was no reason for it to. The finish made no sense.
Well, speaking of things that don't make a lot of sense, they had a stretcher match between Ricochet and Mark Briscoe. And the reason why that we were subjected to the stretcher match apparently is because, I think I told you this on the last show, but it was revealed on the internet that the first ECW show that Tony Khan went to, or the first one he went to in Philadelphia or whatever, there was a stretcher match on the card. So he knew, right? He had to have a stretcher match. The Mark Booker saw one when he was a kid. So let's have a stretcher match with large amounts of blood, and they're not going to use the ring at all on the undercard of a fucking 10 or 12 man conglomeration clusterfuck match where they don't use the ring at all. What the fuck is wrong with these people? It's the ambulance was in the back of the arena. The stretcher was a gurney with wheels like that the fire department would have. And Ricochet again jump-started it, and Mark Briscoe fought back, and they went up the ramp and fought to the ambulance. And then they fought at ringside. And then Mark did an elbow off the apron onto the stretcher, and he used a chair on him multiple times and pulled out a table. It was 5 minutes in. And I wrote, they haven't stepped foot in the fucking ring yet. But then Ricochet, with a heel move, he pushed it back underneath they have a goddamn garbage match later. So they're having a 2-man garbage match before they have the 10-man garbage match. And I wrote still fighting on the floor. At 7 minutes into this match, they got in the ring with Mark Briscoe bringing in a bucket of spray cleaner, and he got Ricochet in a headlock sprayed his head with Windex and shined it with a cloth and then hit him with a bucket. And then they got back out of the ring. And I started fast forwarding at that point because it's just, they went back to the fucking ambulance. Mark Briscoe was bleeding buckets. I don't know what they attributed it to, but he did the fire extinguisher spot where he sprayed the fire extinguisher out of the ambulance. They went back to the ring and did the elbow off the top rope, putting the guy through the fucking table. And they fought on the floor, went back to the ambulance. And Briscoe got the golden scissors away from Ricochet. But Ricochet found a second pair of regular colored scissors. They may not have the same amount of powers, but he stabbed him with the second scissors and threw him in the ambulance and slammed the door. Out of 16 minutes, they spent 1 minute in the fucking ring. And they did the whole garbage match deal before the garbage match that they had booked. It was the main event. Again, Brian, help me in trying to understand.
I can't. You always ask for help when you know I can't help. Was this the bloodiest match you ever saw with Mark Briscoe?
Oh, God, no. The Briscoes were, free bleeders, but it's not the point. It's not the point. Besides the fact, and here's the thing, they're stabbing each other with scissors. Later on, the plumber is going to stab Hobbs with what was apparently either a fork or some type of cutlery. And Hobbs got a little pap smear. What difference would it have made if he'd have bled out? Because you've already seen Mark Briscoe look like he's bleeding out. And he's going to come back and interfere in the garbage match.
That's right.
Without getting cleaned up in the interceding hour and a half. But the point is, it was the match before the match with the blood and the gimmicks and the not using the ring and the whole 9 yards. They can't just do one of anything, even in the same night. What about the tag team title match, Brian? Should we move on to that? The Hurt Syndicate, Dustin and Sammy. I think this was the shortest match of the night at 13 minutes, and maybe the only thing that actually accomplished anything besides repetition and boredom. But again, it illustrated this could have been a TV match. It was here so that MJF would be at ringside with the Hurt Syndicate for the first time and further that story and get the Hurts another win, because obviously there's nobody set up to remotely even beat them. But again, this is a TV match. It's not a World Tag Team title match for a pay-per-view. But it's not like they had any other choice. There are no other teams. And I love Dustin's work, but I think this was better when Sammy was in, because the Hurts don't care how far they throw him. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I saw a little bit of that in this match. I thought Shelton worked.
Well, I mean, you can't be disrespectful to Dustin, but Sammy, you can fling a ways.
Yeah, this was quick, and that was probably for the best. And I don't know who they're going to work with or where they're going to go next.
Well, finally, what happened was MJF had offered the ring, the Dynamite Diamond ring, to Shelton Benjamin, but Lashley told him, hey, get down off the apron. And they went back and forth for a minute, and then MJF ended up gouging Dustin's eyes and went for the punch with the ring. But that's where Lashley stopped him and smiled at him and then speared Dustin through the rail. And then Shelton knee lift, super kick, Sammy. There you go. 1, 2, 3. So at least they have avoided this trap of thinking they need to hit people with 80 goddamn different things to beat them and killing everybody's finish in the process. But This again, it was a TV match to further the MJF story. Nobody thought Dustin and Sammy were going to win. Nobody should have thought it. And there should be if this is their big fucking pay-per-view, why is the World Tag Team title match meaningless? You dumb shits. Sets. Final comments from you.
Who will
Brian,
stop
on
the
this
Hurt
one?
Business? Who will be able to get together, an unexpected tag team, and stop these men from conquering AEW forever?
Well, I think Vince McMahon stopped the Hurt Business, but the Hurt Syndicate,
Hurt Syndicate.
is doing.
Did I do that? That's what Jeff Jarrett did on the pre-show too.
Yeah.
They had to stop him. Sorry, guys. The Hurt Syndicate.
All right, is a monkey business now. There was a match for another title belt. What's it named? The Continental. What was the other belt they had that was along with the Continental?
The International.
Not Intercontinental, but
International.
International?
Yeah.
Do they still have that? Who's that champion?
That champion. Is it Omega?
You can't look it up. That's not fair.
I'm not
You gotta
looking
try
it
to
up.
remember
That was my pen. Who is
Okay.
it? Is it Omega?
I don't know. Who knows? But they had a belt. So they had a match for it. With Oblada, our friend from Japan, Oblada. That's what somebody said on Twitter. And I think I like that. Oblada, because blah. And Hong Kong Phooey. They're trolling us now, Brian. As the kids say, they are trolling. I can hear Ernie Ladd say, "You're trolling me now. You are trolling Mid-South Wrestling." Why would... I don't know why you would do this, but the one little hyperactive shit can't stop moving. And the other guy is the laziest wrestler in Major League Sports.
I enjoyed this.
And what the...
I enjoyed this because, usually I don't like matches when I know, exactly who's going to win. Like, there's no chance. Nothing's going to happen. It's going to be Okada winning. But watching Speedball do everything in the world to him, and Okada, at times his way of selling is just like kneeling and looking exhausted. But knowing he's going to win, and eventually, when they get there, knowing that people online are going to be like, Okada did it again! Another fantastic Okada performance! I got a kick out of this match, but Okada's a slug.
What about that one time when he wiped his brow, Brian? That's selling. I mean, that was over
selling.
the top.
Next level selling. You don't even understand the sweat.
I just watched the one kid is play acting. I mean, maybe his childhood wasn't happy. He was a lonely kid, and he dreamed up this thing that he could fucking be in his mind, where he's the martial arts hero of, fucking Roosevelt Elementary or something.
No, he really is a black belt, apparently.
Well, so was my cousin Larry.
In kata.
My cousin Larry was a black belt in Taekwondo.
Did he ever use it? Did he ever just throw kicks like crazy, like Speedball Bailey?
Yeah, what they tried to show us how he could break a board with a kick and missed it and kicked the foundation, broke his foot. But he was a legitimate black belt. He went through the course and everything.
Well, you pick on a lot of guys for being small, and sometimes I think it's unfair in comparison to some of the other people that are around. Sometimes it works. This guy's really small. And that's one of the reasons I got a kick out of this match, was because it was just ridiculous. Because Okada is not the biggest guy, but in AEW he's pretty big, I guess.
Why, he's 6'3", according to the announcers.
But this guy's so slow. Yeah, now he's dyeing his hair. Did he dye it gray? What?
Well, yes, hold on. That's what I was going to mention. When you talk about Hong Kong Phooey being small, he's microscopic, but also he's got a head that's just a little bit too large for that small body. So it makes the body look even more comically tiny. But it's ridiculous. And with Oblada, yes, instead of being bleached blonde now and looking like some kind of weird Japanese club employee. Now he looks like a fucking parking attendant from Sapporo. I didn't know you could dye your hair salt and pepper because it's brown, but it looks like brown hair naturally going gray. Or has he been gone long enough that he was able to grow that out and we didn't notice it? I don't know what
It definitely goes with that new outfit of his, the oversized suit for an old man. Like it works together.
Looks like if he was wearing waders, he'd be ready to go out fishing.
His new gimmick is he's an old fisherman from Okinawa.
But anyway, so that's the point this is another little video game match on the one kid's part. I think they ought to put Spitball in the women's division where it looks visually like he'd have a chance. He makes Pockets look like Stan Hansen. But he's treating it like a little video game thing. And old Okada's treating it like I'm going to get another big check from this fucking Mark for doing as little as possible and barely hitting the mat. He's the laziest bastard in wrestling, and he reacts and falls as slowly and easily as possible. And then the baby face looks and acts like a complete douchebag. So in 15 minutes, Okada won with a shitty clothesline. He didn't cheat. He just beat him. But this kid is so obnoxious on any level. How would even the modern wrestling fan take this kid as a baby face when he's like a malfunctioning Energizer bunny at a Comic-Con?
Have you heard his promo?
No, I can only imagine that it's delivered at a tone so high that only fucking seals in the Arctic can hear it.
Well, it sounds like you've seen his promo. Yeah. My thing has been, and I've said it before, if Tony's going to sign a lot of guys that are smaller, which it'll be funny when WWE to stop that, just start signing all these tiny guys, then he should literally just have a weight division and make it something marketable. See the young, small, tiny guys really get in there, and they're faster and quicker than those big heavyweights we don't have.
They can get into all those tight orifices, ladies and gentlemen. They're so small and tiny, they can insinuate themselves inside.
They announced him, I think, at 170. If they announced him at 170 pounds, how much does he actually weigh?
He's not as big as Brian Hildebrand. Mark Curtis for the uninitiated. And that's, again, but the thing is, it's not about the size with him. It's about the overall marketability of this annoying, obnoxious, goofy little kid that has been somehow let loose at the adults' fucking party. That he's like the annoying Comic-Con cosplayer where he's hopping around on the floor of the convention acting like Hong Kong Phooey and doing his pose with his fist in his hand, and he's got a mouth guard, which I just thought those were the whitest teeth anybody had ever come across, but apparently it's a mouth guard. But again, I see he looks like Ricky Steamboat's daughter. What the fuck? It's just.
But again, if they had a 150-pound weight division or something, and you have him, you have Orange Cassidy.
He still wouldn't be. No, put Conor McGregor in the fucking thing or whatever. He still wouldn't be an attraction at any weight. Unsafe at any speed is what this fucking guy is. The whole thing is goofiness. It's like the AEW equivalent of TL Hopper, this guy's gimmick. It's so blatantly fucking stupid. And he's hopping around with it on his bare feet. Somebody stomp his goddamn foot. Stomp his foot, kick him in the shin, grab his fucking balls. You just won the match. Would you like to talk about the next match that didn't involve any balls, Brian?
Another one of those stellar transitions. I'm not sure. I don't remember what the next match was, so I don't want to commit to anything.
Well, it was the women's title match with Toni Storm and Mina Mellons. You didn't want to see this? Is everybody involved in this hokey horse shit on the kratom, Brian? Could that explain it? That they are 80% like Jelly Nutella says, and boy, a more reputable source you've never found for information, ladies and gentlemen. You think 80% of these people are on some kind of fucking truck stop opiate that is clouding their judgment making skills?
You know, I don't want to get bogged down with this here. We probably have to return to this on a later show, but we've actually been inundated with feedback from people pro and against it. People who say that it saved their life and they use it all the time. And then people who said it almost destroyed my life. It's as addictive as heroin.
Literally, the next email, one email will say, I owe my life to kratom. And the other one will say, stay away from this devil's drug. It's horrible. I was addicted.
So we'll return to that. But allegedly, a lot of people may be on it.
Well, the point is, Toni Storm, okay, the people that like AEW, they love her. She's the most popular woman on the roster. I think it's so fucking over the top ridiculous that it could have been something that was cool and got the same result if they had had the rest of the world play it a little straighter and let Toni be but nevertheless. But now they're trying to build her and Mercedes Moan, but they've got to establish you can still see Kenny's finger in the talent roster because they got to establish all these Japanese girls that have to jump around and do the whole thing for people who want to laugh at wrestling. This whole show is for people who want to laugh at wrestling. People should laugh at this show, but the problem is this show makes people laugh at all wrestling. And the only thing to me that makes Toni Storm's gimmick any worse is that fat fuck Luther that has to be comedy on top of comedy. Because everybody's got it's slapstick. It's Keystone Cops. Nobody can fucking help themselves. And so they had this match that they've built up for 15 minutes. Toni Storm hits a pile driver on her. 1, 2, 3. At least the pile driver still works on the women. And then Toni Storm was apologizing that she had to do that to her. And the girl that got pile driven in 30 seconds was okay enough to be up and kiss and make out with Toni Storm. And this audience thinks there's nothing at all ridiculous about this whole goddamn thing.
Well, I think Toni Storm is like Orange Cassidy. It's an act. It's a comedy act that they really like being into. Toni can actually work. Toni's actually one of the best women workers out there. And she's developed this gimmick. And
yes.
You know, it works for them, I guess. It doesn't necessarily work for me. Her and Monet, I am interested to see that. And
I'm afraid that Toni Storm will come out when Toni Storm compared to Mercedes Moon as far as a draw is 10-1. What little Josephine Camel will ever be.
You think Mercedes Monet may have a tractor accident before the match?
Well, no, what I'm saying is that Mercedes also has a high opinion of herself and her alleged abilities, and apparently has her own writer and her own team that can't help her when she gets lost in the woods. But I have a feeling that Toni Storm will suffer because Mercedes Moon has a bigger team and bigger pull and considers herself a bigger star. And Toni Storm is far and away the person who should win that match, but I don't see the other bitch doing a job.
All right, you really hate her. It's really coming out now.
The money that she's getting for what she's contributing and the phoniness of her and the insufferable douchebaggery of her.
You know what I just heard the other day? Hold on, I'm going to look this up to make sure I got it right. I was shocked to hear this. Do you know how old Mina Shirakawa is?
I do not have any idea.
37.
37. Well, that's a good round number to retire on.
All right, well, we're moving on now. In the old days of Japanese women's wrestling, they retired at 26. We now move on.
Yes.
To another thing here.
Another thing.
What was next on this show?
Well, I'll tell you what was next on the show. Smiley Roberts. Smiley Roberts was in the ring. And this began 45 minutes of pure indie wrestling delight. There were people with Cheeto-stained fingers and sweaty jowls and potential boils on their perineum. They were literally pleasuring themselves for the next 45 minutes when all the kids got to come out and play and have fun. And Smiley set the tone as the ring announcer. He's there in a goddamn dressed up suit, and he looks down in the front row, apparently at some child, and says, "Cover your ears," and then says, "Aw, shit." They had the ring announcer say, "Aw, shit."
He was more than happy to say it seemed.
And he's always happy. This is anarchy in the arena. Why did they have to have this fucking... The ring announcer say, "Aw, shit," because aw, shit. This is a warning now. Get out with your sanity while you still can. What if they had told Howard Finkel in Madison Square Garden, "Howard, go out there when you plug the next card and say, "Aw, shit, Undertaker's back." So, and you see Finkel say,
I'm trying to hear his voice saying,
"Yes."
And
oh shit.
Oh shit.
Yes.
It's Repo Man. Oh shit.
I don't remember if I ever heard Finkel say the word shit.
Whose idea was it? Was it Justin Roberts like, hey, boss, I got a great idea. Is it okay if I do this? Or was Tony like, "Listen, I got a great idea.
Yeah.
It came to me at hour 47 of my 4 days up, and here's what it is."
Well, anyway, they started the entrances. And here came Swerve out. And now he's wearing some kind of science fiction costume. Was that some recognized character, Brian, or is he just they're spending some of their extra money? Everybody's got a science fiction fucking outfit now. Did you recognize it from any pop culture, anything? Or did you pay any attention?
I didn't really pay attention to his outfit as he came out.
What about him as
their big
fiction?
thing. This is their big thing. This is like, their Grammys. Their anarchy in the arena. So that's the night you get dressed up. That's the night you go out and you get your finest shoes and suit and...
But what about Swerve's gimmick is the most dangerous man in AEW and that he does all these horrible things? What about it as science fiction? What part of him is supposed to be in a video game? But then here came Willow, dressed like Plowgirl Frazier. And that's when I realized the girls are in this match too. And of course, since they never really actually all appear in the same place at the same time, you can't really tell who's on whose team. But the girls, allegedly, till the end, were going to fight each other. But yeah, so this most dangerous match in the history of all danger, everybody comes dressed up in funny costumes, and girls can play too. And then when Hobbs and Shapoopy came out, Samoa Joe was introduced, but he didn't come out. And actually, when the other two walked out, the people were chanting for Joe, 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 Joe. He didn't show up. He comes out later on when the fight starts. And then here came Kenny. And he came out with a garbage can, which was apropos. And the garbage can lid was painted like Captain America's shield, but with his insignia on it. And it's Halloween for all these kids. They've always dreamed of doing this. And now they have found a guy with unlimited amounts of money that will let them play like they always wanted to. And then here came Dick the Boozer and Wheeler Useless and Claudio and Marina Schaefer. They made their stagger through the crowd. And then, of course, because the EVPs are involved, they've even got more pull than everybody else. They not only get to wear funny outfits, but they get to be able to tell the ring announcer to do their own ring introduction, and they get their own silly music. And they play it's the fife and drum music because it's Memorial Day, and there's silly verbiage that's supposedly comedy, but it's not funny. But they get a kick out of it. The crowd doesn't react. And after they joke with the funny music and the overdone introduction about how these people are our founding fathers, the Buckaroos walk out dressed like Benjamin Franklin or like Jerry Seinfeld in the puffy shirt episode. And nobody cares. They're wasting minutes on this. This is this whole hokey outlaw bullshit match is the idea of these little jackoffs from Cucamonga to get attention and do anything that their little hearts can desire and think of to do because the mark is paying for it all, that was originally thought of to be the ultimate mud show bullshit to make up for and hide their shortcomings, that they can't work and they can't put matches together and they can't sell tickets on their ability. So we'll just throw a bunch of fucking bullshit out there and it'll be a spectacle and people will watch the car wreck and we can take credit for that. But now they're parodying their own parody. They're making fun of the thing that they came up with to make fun of the business and bilk the billionaire money mark. Tony not only pays for this shit, but has to pay to put it on television. And they're just jacking around
and pay for
the music. I think it's 5 times the limit before you have to pay a significant more amount in rights fees. But so they do 12 minutes of entrances. And then the baby faces jump started. Imagine that in the entranceway. And they go to a quadruple box, not a double box, not even a triple box, a quadruple box. Brian, I have an 82-inch television. And I couldn't tell what was going on in 4 different pictures at the same time especially because they were just using 4 different camera angles, but that didn't mean that the camera that was trying to shoot whatever scene was going on was able to catch it, because they obviously hadn't blocked this thing in a professional basis. It was like, yeah, we're going to go over there and do that, and you just shoot it. So it was all over the fucking place. Joe and Claudio go out to the parking lot. They're still playing the fife and drum music. The girls are fighting each other on the floor. And then Kenny's got to be funny. And so he gets on the microphone or signals to change the music, and they start playing, "I'm so excited." And then Kenny says, no. We want some 2000s alternative rock. And they play Let the Bodies Hit the Floor 5 times through from that point on, stopping and starting it over again. Tellingly, when the music stops in between till they can re-rack it and start it again, there's usually no goddamn noise in the building. Because it sounds from my description like a lot was going on, but it's fake looking shit that you couldn't see or follow, not involving the ring. Everybody walk fighting everywhere. And that's where the group of a dozen or so security guys came in, because they would go from place to place and then stand there in a tightly packed a group for somebody to jump off something into them. And then that's where Moxley was. Mark Briscoe bled to the point where you thought he'd need a transfusion in one of the preliminary matches. But Moxley is stabbing Hobbs with a fork in the head over and over and over, and almost nothing. And then the girls were in the parking lot. Willow, quote unquote, broke a bottle over Marina Schaefer's head, and she didn't go down. Did you see that part?
I did.
She didn't go down from having a bottle broken over her head. Because they wouldn't, in the movie that they're seeing in their heads that they're getting paid by this billionaire man-child to star in. So it's supposed to be dangerous, but everything looks fake. And nobody's taking it seriously. And finally, they stopped the music. As I said, maybe they got the goddamn signal they can't play it anymore. And then they chained Willow's ear to the ring post. And they broke some more tables, some more pile drivers that didn't hurt anybody. Marina Schaefer was bleeding, but she was beating up the guys. And as I said, the music was helping. But after a while, everybody was just staring at this shit. Because it was on and on and on. And then at one point, Nana drove Swerve out on a forklift so he could jump off of it. And then everybody got a sleeper. And then they got out of that by getting the staple guns. And Brian, unless you use it like a brass knuckle, what good is it? Why would you staple somebody if you were in a fight with them?
You know, of the whole match and all the problems you have with it and everything, this was the stuff I had the biggest problem with, the staple gun. Not only was it stupid, but it just caused Swerve Strickland to nonstop want to stick out his tongue at the camera for the rest of the match.
Yes, because this surgeon, and by the way, when we finish reviewing the roster, we get to the S's. I think I may have already kept Swerve because he was a champion, or is he a champion of something? I'm rethinking it because he's a fucking moron. He's a stupid, stupid individual because he's always doing some shit like this. He's in a blood drinking spot where he's letting somebody here staple his tongue with a real staple gun and a real staple. And there are some weird individuals who go, oh, yeah, that's cool. No, what that is a stupid, stupid individual. And if you look up to people who staple their own tongues with a staple gun, you are a stupid, stupid person looking up at a stupid, stupid individual. It's not going to win anybody a fight. It just makes wrestling look like bite the head off the fucking chicken at the fair and get it over with. If you want to be low class, jelly Nutella, pond scum sucking sideshow freaks. But nobody used the staple gun like a brass knuckle. Everybody stapled their tongues and their titties. And then Moxley gave Willow an RKO because it's pay-per-view, so he could. And then Kenny gave Marina Schaefer that begonia suplex. But I'm thinking if Kenny did it to Marina, that can't be called man-on-woman violence, can it? In the truest sense of the word? You choose not to answer me?
I don't know why you're throwing this at me. Kenny's a man, she's a woman. It's man-on-woman violence.
Well, it's where their hearts lay. So then the Buckaroos double super kicked everybody, including Willow. Willow didn't go down from the Buckaroos double super kick. Of course, I could kind of understand that. It would have been unrealistic if she had. Hook showed up with a golf club and beat the shit out of Claudio with it and then walked out. Okay, thanks for coming down and throwing in your contribution.
Yeah, what was that?
I don't know. He came down with a golf club and just beat up Claudio because he had the chance, and plus his Uber was out back, so he needed to leave. They were running overtime. So then Joe got the choke on Moxley, and here came Gabe Kidd, the True Value Josh Alexander. I swear to God, why don't they just be a brother team? If you put fucking a bald guy of kind of a slim build and a fucking beard, put the headgear on both of them, you can't tell them apart. And he pile drove Kenny, and then Wheeler put tacks in Kenny's mouth and gave him a shitty knee lift that was nowhere near his mouth. But again, let's put thumbtacks in his mouth. Why? Is it they're both childish, and again, this is an audition for Jackass or whatever their modern version of it is. Hey, let's show everybody we're stupid people doing stupid shit on video, and people will notice us. And forever we'll be known as that stupid guy that did that stupid thing. And then Briscoe came in and dove in and fought Gabe Kidd, and the girls were back up and still fighting. And then they locked Moxley's group in the ambulance so Kenny and Swerve could beat up the Buckaroos. And then Nana gave Swerve a pair of tennis shoes with thumbtacks on the soles, so the Swerve could take time to...
That's, that'd be a great song title. That's deep. Thumbtacks on the soles.
Thumbtacks on the soles. He took his regular boots off and put the fucking tennis shoes with the thumbtacks on the soles on. And then Kenny gave the one-winged fairy to one of the Buckaroos off the stage onto an exploding table. It didn't really blow up like to kill all of them, unfortunately. But there was like a small amount of pyro wired to it so that when they landed and it broke in the middle, you could see the shit that was wired underneath it where it went pow, 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 pow. I swear to God, they literally put a fucking table wired with a minimum amount of pyro next to the stage for no other reason through the whole show than for them to jump off onto, just so they got to take a bump in an exploding table, Brian.
Yeah, of all the stupid things in the match, and again, I hate the thumbtacks, and there are things I really hate in a match. The random exploding table out of nowhere in the middle of nowhere.
Yes.
Who wired it? What is it doing there? Who put it there?
So we could take our bump onto it. But it exists for no other purpose.
Exactly what explodes? Nothing goes in the air.
So then Swerve came off the top with a double stomp on Buck number 2 with the thumbtack shoes and covered him 1, 2, 3. And then stuck his tongue out and showed everybody the staple that was in his tongue. I want to have these people had their shots. Tetanus, rabies, malaria, AIDS, whatever the random variety of communicable disease, hepatitis. So I'm rethinking if I kept any of these fuckwits involved in this. Poor Hobbs, he just lost, trying to find a friend. But I'm rethinking it if they would take part in this 35-minute match, 45 or more with entrances, self-indulgent, stupid, not good for the business, takes no talent, and they're all delusional. Did I cover all the high points?
It sounds like a 5-star match to me, if ever. Yeah, you covered all the points. We've seen them do their arena shows originally with no one there in the stadium. Where,
and they're headed in that direction again.
Well, remember, Matt Hardy transported. Like, they've been doing this kind of stupid shit since the very beginning. I hate that fucking let the bodies hit the floor song. I know you used it for OVW. No disrespect to OVW. I hate that fucking song. And Kenny Omega called it alternative rock. That's not alternative rock in any way. What is he talking about?
Well, Kenny, there's a lot of alternatives to Kenny, but we had a nice snappy video to the song. We didn't play it for 20 fucking minutes straight while we were goddamn wandering around fucking throwing shit at each other.
Yeah, no, I hate it. I hated it when it came out. I hate it now. I can't pretend it's not an awful song. But this is what they wanted. Their big spectacle leading up to the big Texas show. Those dastardly heels were so foolish they all got locked in an ambulance. Why was the ambulance there? If the ambulance was there to... I guess it didn't take Briscoe out. It just... He was in there and then someone took him out. And
then they just forgot to move the ambulance.
Hey, we got it for the night. Why not just leave it here?
Yeah, it's not in the way or anything. It's a parody of wrestling concocted by, from the top down, kids who dreamed about doing this as children and all the cool things they'd get to do. And then suddenly somebody's plopped literally $500 million in front of them and said, okay, go ahead. And the actual profession suffers because of it, but we get this.
Well, Jim, before we plop along here, after a match like that, both the audience and the participants may either feel beat up or amped up. You really don't know. You may need some help getting to sleep. You may need a nice fizzy drink to fix things at the end of the night or perhaps in the middle of the day, whenever. I don't think there's any restrictions. Let's go to Jim before I mess this up. Jim, our good friends at Cornbread Hemp.
Well, Brian, I'm sure that later on you can screw that up even more. But right now, I'll tell you what. Here's what I vowed to do the other night on that pay-per-view for Double or Nothing. I said every time they have a good match, I'm going to sit and watch it intently. And every time they have a bad match, I'm going to take a sip of my Blueberry Breeze THC seltzer from the folks at Cornbread Hemp. And by the end of that pay-per-view, I had rewritten the entire Beatles White Album. Oh, boy. I thought I'd never come back to the ground. But you know what? Next day, I had no hangover because there's no alcohol. This is a THC seltzer that tastes and feels amazing, perfect for the spring and summer, a low-calorie drink, 30 calories, 5 grams of sugar, but it's made with pure THC and all natural ingredients with no synthetics, no alcohol, and therefore you don't get no hangover. You don't get pulled over and taken to the Hoosgow, the Crossbar Motel. It's 5 milligrams of THC in each can, which is the perfect amount for you. And it even says on the side, Brian, well, you know this because you've consumed 1 or 4 of these. You take 1 to feel this way, you take 2 to feel that way, you drink 3 to feel that way, and about 18 on that Double or Nothing pay-per-view. Of course, that was spread over the 3 days that the show happened in. Anyway, folks, again, THC seltzers. This is the way of the future, how you can relax and feel better without all of the problems that might come with alcohol. Let's just say that.
From that great soil in Louisville, Kentucky.
Well, no, it's not. The seltzer is not from the soil. It's like I got a cup of coffee.
And the CBD and everything else. It's grown.
Well, yes, but we're not just digging a well and seltzer is popping out down here in Louisville.
You said
I mean us Kentuckians, the people at Cornbread Hemp.
Like you
have a boy, they got it down, folks. I'll tell you what, whether all of the THC and CBD products and services that they offer with amazing professionalism and wonderful packaging, all carrying on the tradition of over 250 years of growing certain plant products in the state of Kentucky. And now the seltzers, the Blueberry Breeze, the Peach Iced Tea, the Raspberry Limeade, the Salted Watermelon, no hangover. You can unwind, you can kick back, you can kick out, As a matter of fact, if anybody tries to take your seltzer away, you can kick them right up under the chin. Bam! And tip up your seltzer, and we can save you money now doing it.
Yes, we can. Let's get to that.
As a matter of fact, if you buy 4 or more of these things, then you're going to get 1 for free or 2 for free because we can save you 30%. Now, you divide 4 into 1, and that means it's 25%. So 30% is a free one or more. You see this math. Right now, 30% off your first order and free shipping on any order over $75 when you go to Cornbread Hemp. CORNBREAD, Cornbread. The way that corn and bread that are put together is spelled. Hemp.com/JCE and use the code JCE at checkout. You're going to get 30% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75. And boy, howdy, just sit back and sip one of these and float away on a cloud of bliss.
Blueberry bliss.
Blueberry bliss.
From our friends.
Actually, it's blueberry breeze, but it could be blueberry bliss.
You'll be in a blueberry bliss, potentially. No commitment, no guarantee, but it's great stuff. Cornbread Hemp from Louisville, Kentucky. One more time, Jim. What's that special link?
Cornbreadhemp.com/JCE. Use the code JCE at the checkout.
All right, you know what that means. It's the downbeat portion of the show, meaning everyone left the building after Anarchy in the Arena, but we couldn't. And there was more, and it wasn't even, I forgot, it wasn't even just the world title, and it wasn't even the world title. The Owen Hart Tournament Final is the main event. There was another match that I definitely didn't watch. I apologize to anyone upset I didn't watch the next match.
Well, after 45 minutes of the previous Falderall, they thought, well, this will be a good time to put a 6-man tag team match on with Adam Cole, Kyle O'Reilly, and Roddy Strong against Take a Shit, Josh Alexander, and our friend Kyle Felcher. And I wrote, seriously, after that? Now, even if people didn't leave you, they had to get up and piss. They had to go get a drink or something, probably eat again. I'm sure it had been days since lunch. So I can understand maybe, since all of Tony's children's angles are important, that, okay, put the 6-man tag on that absolutely nobody bought this pay-per-view to see and give them 8 to 10 minutes with entrances and have a nice match and bring the people down to some kind of baseline a little bit so you can have your main event. So instead, they had a 20-minute with entrances deal where everybody did everything. And then O'Reilly got a front face lock on Kyle, and right in front of the referee, Take a Shit just came in and hit Kyle with a fake forearm. He could have done a variety of things that looked like it made contact, but he chose that. And then Kyle just muscled him up into a brainbuster. Boom, 1, 2, 3. And by the way, Adam Cole's upper body now is so skinny, it looks like it was CGI. It looked like somebody had made a rib thing for Twitter of Adam's head on like a Halloween skeleton.
American Baby Baba.
And I mean, he's still got some, I won't say muscle, but some thickness around his thighs, thick compared to the rest of him. But the upper body, what? If he's sick, I'm so sorry, Adam. But it's like it's science fiction level shrinking. But then that wasn't it, because even though they had another match where everybody did everything and it went 20 fucking minutes and blah, 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 then the heels and Lance Archer jump in and beat up the baby faces. And then here comes Rocky Romero and Trent, and they jump on them and beat them up too. And then music plays, and Brody King and Ishii come out to the stage.
Yeah, that was a surprise, by the way. When the Hounds of Hell image hit, I was like, oh shit, Buddy's back. Oh, that's pretty cool. They're doing all this just for them. And then it was Ishii and Brody King.
Yes, because they made the Hounds of Hell, and the dogs never found hell. But then they part, and there comes Hiroshi Tanahashi limping out. He was limping before anybody touched him. And Brody and Ishii get in a big, sloppy, fake-looking fight in the entranceway with some of the heels. Tanahashi just hits one guy once and then walked to the ring. And Ishii was so crippled, he tried twice to roll into the ring and barely got it. And then somehow they dispatched the heels to where Kyle Felcher, the only one at this point in this whole fucking group of wrestlers and runner-inners that could possibly make a fuck, right? They left him to take Tanahashi's finish, which apparently is the guy running at him and grabbing him and jerking him down in a fucking heap. And then Adam Cole hit him with a knee. And off they went. So, well, hold on. Wait a minute. Hold on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6 different people ran in after the match was over with. And is Tony Khan running some type of motion picture country home for disabled Japanese wrestlers?
If you were on the AEW roster and you did not do something on this event or pre-show, would you be insulted?
No, actually, I'd be relieved, to be quite honest with you, that my reputation would not be sullied by being a part of this. But I know what you're saying.
Everyone was a part of it.
I mean, why? I understand that, legends, again, I've said this a million times, legends can draw you money on nostalgia themed shows and in limited quantities where it's not every show and it's special. But these Japanese legends are completely unable to fucking perform. And it's just wishful thinking and people smoking opium. If you want to just see them in person, I'm sure there's a way to do that, but what the fuck? None of them can fucking wrestle. Ishii, Tanahashi, Oblada. It's over with. Move on. Am I being too harsh?
Not necessarily. In 2025, not necessarily at all. With Adam Cole and, to an extent, Ishii, who, although he looks like he's very old, he's not that old. But he's 5'4". And Adam Cole is 102 pounds. I don't know how much he weighs. If there was a division for smaller people, I think it would make more sense. And I know it sounds like it's a joke, but if there was a division for people can't be under 200 pounds. It has to be like under 175 pounds.
But then Ishii is over 200 pounds and the poor fella can't fucking turn his head. And Tanahashi, what's the matter with him? He doesn't wrestle here regularly, but he couldn't walk straight.
He's now the president of New Japan, I believe.
Okay, well, then let him come out in a suit and sign some contracts. You keep up better than I do. Is he crippled too?
Look, every single person that worked for New Japan during those years is banged up badly. Whether it's Okada, who may not be as banged up as bad as some of these other guys, even though obviously it's a different style he's working now. Ishii, Tanahashi's done. I mean, he's retired pretty much. But a lot of these guys, I mean, we heard again that Ibushi's training for a comeback. Naito's out. I mean, all those guys from that generation have all gone down hard. And, Kenny Omega, although he got out a little earlier to go to AEW, he was there during those peak years, and he was one of those guys just killing his body. It's going to be a rough It's going to be a rough time for a lot of people. And, Japanese wrestling, an entire crop of like I guess the new legends from that previous group of people, they're all banged up really badly.
And of course, I wasn't laughing at Ibushi's misfortune. I was laughing at, I just remembered that Tony Khan is still paying him. He signed him to a contract because he was Kenny's friend. And before the guy had ever done anything, he broke both his ankles spectacularly, underwent multiple surgeries. And it's been, what, a year and a half?
Well,
And I think he signed to a 2 or 3 year contract.
he was with it was, I don't even know if it's technically NXT, when WWE did their cruiserweight, wasn't cruiserweight, light heavyweight classic, world cruiserweight classic, whatever it was, and they had all these people that were on the indies at that time before AEW. They got Ibushi. And he was jacked. He was ripped. He was cut. Did all this impressive stuff. The next time I see him on American TV on AEW, he's completely out of shape. Looks like he doesn't know where he is. So then you're like, okay, let's see the work. And then the work wasn't there. And then he got a contract. And then he went home. And then like on some indie show or whatever he was working, he broke both of his feet. And that was the last we heard of him. But he may be coming back. That whole generation of Japanese wrestlers, they beat up their body and they're paying the price a little younger than a lot of people used to.
Well, no, now they beat up their body and now Tony is paying the price. And they're spreading the word. Hey, we got a fucking great deal over here. Anyway, speaking of great deal, we've had a great deal of talk to get to the main event for the Owen Hart Tournament Cup and the chance to face the world champion Dick the Boozer of the Boar Horsemen at the Stadium Show in Texas. Hangnail Adam Page and Will Ospreay. And I'll save the finish, but boy, howdy. When you thought they were going to do something that made some sense and everything pointed to it, that flies out the window. So the main event started, the entrances started 3 hours and 40 minutes into the pay-per-view. And they gave Ospreay an entrance with stained glass and lighting effects and his voiceover playing in the arena, echoing the nonsense promo that they did last week of, I am the greatest, prove to you.
You weren't lying. You said that Dave Meltzer said it, and I hadn't read anything that he had reviewed about it yet. It's not just him. There is a fan base who believe that was like one of the greatest promos of all time, one of the greatest face-to-face segments ever. That's amazing. That was awful. And endless.
Well, it wasn't the I have a dream speech, but they played it here like it was.
It was the I have a drink speech.
And I think he had another, because here he came, Ospreay and Lyric Valkyrie or whatever are going to the same costumer. They come out in feathers. They should be quacking. Look like when Jimmy Hart had to wear the San Diego Chicken outfit. So they ring the bell for this match, and suddenly, after 4 hours of complete shit, 2 guys are trying to wrestle. Everybody's tired. After everything has been proven to be phony, cartoon bullshit, then they go out there and they start trying to have a match to the best of their ability, and I will put it over. As far as physically, these are 2 of the better and more credible guys in the ring on the roster. Both of them can do nice spots. Both of them need somebody else leading the match to put together something that doesn't reek of indie and is, a higher level. Ospreay has the problem with the voice, and the more that you hear him talk, the less you like him, but he's got fire. He could be produced. And unfortunately, Page I think he's a shit promo and you don't believe him. He doesn't seem to have a pleasing personality to begin with. He was never a smiling baby face, except when he was interacting with the goddamn job guys in the Dork Order. But he's like a lot of these guys. You like him until you know him better and realize that he's a douche in real life. But they had a higher level of athleticism and professionalism in executing the moves here to where that you wouldn't be embarrassed to show somebody this like you would the Anarchy in the Arena match or some of their other goofball indie shit, thumbtacks, whatever. But still, this match, as a pay-per-view main event, if you want to see a banger of a match after 4 fucking hours of other alleged bangers, then that's what they give you here. But as a money-drawing money match on a program, if they're going to do babyface and babyface, these guys aren't really smart enough to have that match. They just do their moves back and forth to each other, regardless of who's supposed to be a babyface or a heel, or a babyface or a babyface. It's going to be the same thing. Verbally, as we've seen, they can't cut the promo. This is for people who want to see guys do moves and talk about who's going to be the one to be the greatest of all time and it works harder than the other guy, bruv. And so, but they did it over and over for 40 fucking minutes to the point where nothing beats anybody. And then they take you out of the athletic presentation because it's so ridiculous. And that's the thing when we did the talent roster and or part of it so far, and people say, oh, he won't keep Kenny. How dare he? And like Kenny, the people like him and blah, blah, blah. He won't keep Kenny. I said, well, between Kenny and Osprey, you've got 2 trained chimpanzees doing the same tricks. So you keep the younger, fresher chimpanzee. And that's Osprey, who I believed until I saw different that was going to win this thing and go on to win the title in the stadium. Because it made the most sense which is probably why it's not happening. But between, as I said, Kenny and Osprey here, how, if you're looking ahead to build a roster 2, 3 years, 5 years, how could Kenny help a wrestling promotion? Wrestling, he's older, he's had bad injuries, and his matches always looked like he was playing a video game. And Osprey, at least, is fresher and younger and more accomplished and less overly douchey with the pointing and the face making and etc. But could Kenny help in other ways? Promos? He can teach people to do promos or do promos. Have you ever, Brian, call me a great Kenny Omega promo?
No, I've actually always told you I like him in the ring, and I'm not a fan of his promos at all. I think they're counterproductive.
Wishy-washy, counterproductive. You don't want to hear him because he's a douche. Could he do commentary? Can you imagine that, Brian? Could he step into the announcer's booth?
I think he's done it a couple times. No, not good.
A producer or an agent, he can't put his own matches together. The last thing you'd want is he's putting somebody else's together because then you get more of the goddamn video game shit. As a talent scout, he's a shit talent picker, obviously. Anybody remember Michael Nakazawa? Or the Japanese indie girls that he has spent Tony Khan's money on ad nauseum over the last 6 years. That's his talent eye. As a trainer, he's been involved in the most disrespectful bullshit that has ever been done in wrestling especially over the last number of years. He's been an embarrassment from the start with the sex dolls and the 8-year-old girls. And the last thing that you would want is this bitch teaching young wrestlers how to not respect the business. Now, Ospreay, I don't know that he's any different, because he actually said in that interview here recently, well, bruv, AEW smokes the WWE in every aspect of wrestling, except the part about making money and getting big numbers of people to watch it. But because he's of that mindset that, oh, we've got to do the poison rana, mate. But he's 10 years younger and he's a lot newer, and maybe you could teach him something. But now that I'm going to tear down what they did with this, I want to say that this match by far was not perfect, but at least to show it to somebody, you wouldn't be embarrassed. They're athletic. The shit's crisper. They didn't use furniture to the ridiculous degree. There were no scissors, phony props, exploding shit. With this, there's something you could build on, the sports-based presentation that we were promised at the beginning with athletes. But the problem becomes that you have athletes with minds like these guys that can't get them out of the indie level bullshit and into the greater world. And also, after 4 hours of the other shit has taken the wind out of everything, for them to go out there and go 40 more fucking minutes and kick out of every goddamn thing in the world. They've got a story that's the same as every other indie fucking match story. I'm the greatest, hardest worker. No, it's me. Let's fight. And
I want you at your best. I want you at your best.
Yes.
Make sure you train and get 8 hours of sleep.
And they don't even have misunderstandings. They don't get the message wrong, or somebody misinterpreted something. They just, we haven't done this one yet, so let's book it. So at 25 minutes into the match, I'm going to go through some of the high points. 25 minutes into the match, Ospreay gives Page a power bomb on the apron, and then Styles clashes him off the apron onto the floor. Now, they didn't land just flat, but as a matter of fact, Ospreay could have blown his own left knee out the way he landed if he hadn't been lucky. But then they sold that. Ospreay rolled in at 8. Page got up and rolled in at 9.5. Ospreay hits a big Cody cutter on him. 2 count. And then Ospreay hit his elbow finish. 2 count. After the guy's been Styles clashed off the apron onto the floor. And hit with 2 different finishes. 2 count. And then Ospreay beats up on Adam Page, and the referee pulls him back and they argue. And then Ospreay boots Page off the apron onto the desk, bashes his head on the desk, goes for a pedigree on the desk. Page tries to backdrop him, and the desk breaks out from under him, and they fall on a heap, and Page falls on top of Ospreay. So then, after they sell it for a while, instead of moving on, Page picks Ospreay up and dead-eyes him on the wreckage to let everybody know what they were trying to do before the table didn't cooperate. And now, bear in mind, both of these guys, in talking about this match, called Styles Clash off the apron, and then 15 more minutes of match, and somebody let him do it. So at that point, now Page is fine, and he went for the buckshot, but Ospreay fell, and, so he couldn't deliver it. But then Ospreay stood up and pulled off his elbow pad. Like, I'm taking off the gloves now. So then Page pulled off his elbow sleeve. And they're like 2 gunfighters facing each other out in the street at high noon. The problem is Page is ready to do the buckshot, and to do his move, Ospreay has to run at the guy and put his elbow up and hit him with it. Well, when they both charge, Page hits the buckshot, but fucking Ospreay had just run right into it. He didn't try to do the elbow and cover. 2 count. And then Tony Schiavone said, well, it looked to me like Ospreay just ran right into it. Because I think Taz was trying to say he didn't have time to draw his elbow back or whatever, trying to cover. And Tony said, well, to me, it looked like he just ran right into it. So then Page tried another buckshot, and when he landed, Ospreay hit his elbow. And for the first time ever, that elbow looked great because the guy was standing on his feet and had a way to take a fucking bump. But then he's spinning suplex 2 count. Then Ospreay went for the elbow while Page was on his knees, and Page collapsed, and Ospreay went over the top of him with the elbow, and Ospreay sold missing the elbow. Why? And then I wrote, if Ospreay doesn't win this soon, he's dead. He's done everything. He's done everything he knows multiple times to Page. Page is not only as over as he's ever going to be, he's not as over as he once was, and Ospreay still has a chance to be the guy. That's what I'm noting here. And then Ospreay spins forever while his opponent is helpless, pointing at him to now try to start impersonating fucking Kenny. And he hit Kenny's knee. He did it better than Kenny does. Then he picked him up for the one-winged fairy like Kenny does. But Page slipped out of that and dropped fucking Ospreay on his head. Cover 1, 2, leg on the ropes. I wrote more ? And then finally, each one of them foiled the other one. And Page, out of nowhere, hit a buckshot lariat cover. 1, 2, 3. They beat Will Ospreay. Page is the one who gets the title match with Moxley. Page can't win the title, then we're just in as shitty a place as we are with Moxley. A fucking guy that's not over, that nobody gives a shit about, that can't fucking talk, has the title again. And why do this to Ospreay? He did everything he knows, and he can't beat this guy. He can't beat Adam Page. How is he ever going to be the guy when he can't beat this guy? 40 minutes, bell to bell, plus entrances. And they beat Will Ospreay with Adam Page in a babyface match, fair and square. So maybe Ospreay doesn't have to worry about that fucking long flight every week too much longer, because there's not going to be that much call for his services after another babyface withstood everything he could possibly do for 45 fucking minutes and then beat him without cheating. 1, 2, 3. Jesus H fucking Christ.
Well,
Are you still there?
Yeah, 2 questions for you. 1, what do you do now with Moxley versus Adam Page? And 2, hypothetically, because we don't know what Tony Khan thinks about all this, Will Ospreay's been a really great cheerleader for the company publicly, and he's also complained about his flights because he doesn't want to move over here. Are you hesitant as a promoter, as a booker, to make someone your top guy if they won't come live over here in the States? Does it matter?
He's been there for a year or whatever, and it hadn't mattered so far. They don't run house shows. As a matter of fact, I think that sometimes maybe the less you see of Ospreay, definitely the less you hear of him, the better the idea is in your head. But why spend all this money? Why sign the guy? Why? They think they've pushed him. They don't realize they've kind of buried him too, but they haven't buried him as badly until now as all the other guys on the roster. You're paying him a couple $1,000,000. All he has to do is come to work once a week, maybe. And he's fresh and he's athletic and he could be the guy instead of, again, this, what did Punk call him? Empty-headed dipshit Adam Page, that boring shit over and over again. Or Moxley has ruin the world championship in this company if that's even possible. And you buy his 3 high-priced acquisitions at the same time, as I recall, were Osprey, Mercedes, and Okada, right? They all at pretty much the same time.
Yeah.
So 2 of those have been a drastic, fucking abysmal failure, Mercedes and Okada. But you had a chance to make your money back on this guy. And now not only can't he beat the fucking top heels, he can't beat the other fucking baby face that ain't going to do any business for you that you ain't already doing. The people that are going to come and pay to see Adam Page are already coming to pay to see everything else. He's part of the package with that base audience. But you could market. Fuck. I don't care anymore. Do what you want to do, Tony. But this, what the fuck? Pay all these guys to millions of dollars to, in Okada's case, have lazy, nothing matches. In Mercedes's case, have her diddle the little man in the boat for herself all across your programming because she thinks she's a goddamn superstar. She's Madonna or something. That's been rotten. And the one guy that you could actually use that you could get something out of, you've completely dumbed him out of goddamn position. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing.
Well, we'll see what happens. It's interesting if they did all this for Adam Page. But we'll see what happens at Osprey, and we'll see what happens at All in Texas. That was AEW Double or Nothing. What if Tony Khan took some of this money that he spends on wrestlers and just went to the Shop app and supported small businesses all across the land? That would be a wonderful thing. What if he had a business? I guess he does. What if he had a business that people wanted to give him money to? And he had product to sell? He may want to set up an online store with our friends at Shopify.
Well, you know what he ought to do is he ought to sell, although again, I guess then they'd bring him in for human trafficking. He ought to sell some of the wrestlers on his roster he's not using. Certainly he could give people discounts, but folks, again, if you have a business, then Shopify can help you. But you know how Shopify can help you even more? If you don't have a business, if you've got an idea or a dream, like Tony Khan once had, if Tony Khan had gone to Shopify, well, then right now, instead of us screaming, please, Tony, stop this, we'd be doing that because he'd be making all kinds of money with a quality product and a successful platform on which to market said product, because Shopify is the commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world. 10% of all the e-commerce in the United States. Guess who's on top of it? Shopify. And they're holding it like a stranglehold. And they're increasing their reach. They're spreading over the land like a pestilence, and soon, all of it, Brian, every e-commerce platform will be all Shopify. Ha ha ha! From household names like Mattel and Gymshark to brands just getting started like McFuneral's Peter Parlor. What if you can't design a website, folks? Well, Shopify's got you with beautiful, ready-to-go templates to match your brand style. If you need a hand with everyday tasks like enhancing product images, you know they could airbrush a picture of your wife. It looks like she doesn't have that wart on her left cheek. They enhance product images. They write product descriptions. They can write a description to your wife that would make even her sound appealing.
Listen, I don't know what you're focusing on here, but
and they can generate discount codes for your wife, apparently, if you'd like to market her.
You can market your wife. That's against the rules and the protocols of Shopify. But if you have products you're allowed to sell legally that you have the rights to or have made yourself, Shopify is there for you.
I read it in a mirror and got it backwards. They generate discount codes for your wife to save money with Shopify's AI tools that are created specifically for commerce. That's why they only use the Commerce Bank of Beverly Hills, ladies and gentlemen. What if people haven't heard about your brand? Well, Shopify will help you find your customers with easy, email and social media campaigns. Everybody will know about you. They're going to stand on the top of large buildings and downtowns all across the country and scream your name, as well as possibly some of the things that you've been accused of, unless you sign up right now. And what if you get stuck? Well, Shopify is always around to share advice because of their award-winning 24/7 customer support. But if you don't take their advice, well, then if you won't listen, we can't help you. But right now, you can turn those dreams that you've had of being a successful entrepreneur and working out of your home and telling other people what to do on a daily basis, including possibly members of your own family. And hearing that noise a lot, you can do all those things.
Yeah.
With Shopify. And right now, if you sign up for your $1 a month trial period, then Shopify can show you all the things they can do to you, and you can start selling or do to you or for you, do around you. They'll do some things in your presence, and you will start selling today. Go to shopify.com/JCE for a $1 a month trial period. Again, websites, product descriptions, email and social media campaigns. They're going to start your business from scratch, and they're going to run it till the wheels fall off. And then you're going to be rich and successful and retired on a deserted island until one of these days they'll call you back into service, and you will, because of the little nodule implanted at the base of your skull, you will have no choice but to come back. But right now, it's just $1 a month for the trial period. Shopify.com/JCE.
That's right. They power our store. We have brand new Lazy Booking shirts up right now, ArcadiaVanguard.com, or on the Shop app. Just look for it. Shopify.com/JCE. Jim, let's get a few things in here before we wrap things up this week. News breaking as we are recording. Rick Derringer passes away at 77 years old.
No!
Best known for Hang On Sloopy, and of course Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo. And I guess we could add Real American. Passed away Monday, May 26th, peacefully in his sleep.
Does everybody know that Rick Derringer, the rock and roll icon and guitarist and member of the Edgar Winter Group and etc.,
right,
wrote Hulk Hogan's Real American? Not his beer. He didn't write the beer. He wrote the song. I am a real American. But we can't hold that against Rick because he also did Rock and Roll Hoochie Coo.
He also did Demolition's theme song.
That's right.
Which was a again, as a kid who grew up in that area, it was a badass theme song.
Well, I hate to hear that about Rick because I thought that he would rock and roll and Hoochie Coo for years and years and years. Of 77. So when I was 14, he was 28. Well, that just doesn't seem right at all.
Did you always know that it was Sloopy? Did you ever think it was Snoopy?
No, I always do. It was because there were two songs at that period of time, the Ballad of Snoopy and the Red Baron and Hang On Sloopy. But Sloopy, I don't care what your daddy do, because everybody here knows that I'm in love with you.
All right.
At one point, I thought it was Soupy Sales, but I didn't think it was Snoopy.
Hang on, Soupy?
hang on, Soupy. Soupy, hang on. Bye-bye.
All right, well, Jim, let's get to a topic that a lot of listeners have sent in questions about, and there's a couple of things here I have. I have some audio from Tony Khan at the scrum afterwards.
Oh, good Lord.
I must say he looks put together.
What time did that scrum start?
I don't know, but he seems like he doesn't look as wacky as he usually does, so credit to him there for looking like he's together. But he spoke about something, he was asked a question about something that there may be something to, and let's talk about it, and I have a few other things here about it. Let's go to this audio. I'm not sure who asked the question. We'll find out now.
Mark Hoke, 101.5 FM, Las Vegas. How are you feeling about other companies scheduling events on top of and around yours on a consistent basis?
It's pretty consistent. I'd say it's the most consistent event head-to-head scheduling I've seen since Jim Crockett Promotions. Saw a lot of scheduling that went that way. And I can tell you this will go a lot differently than that did, Mark. Thank you for asking. I appreciate you all being here.
Well, there it is.
How is it going to go any differently than it did before? He can't do anything about it.
Before we even address that, news breaking also in the last day or so. All In, Texas, of course, July 12th, 2025, 2 p.m. Central start time. WWE has announced the NXT Great American Bash will take place on July 12th at Center Stage in Atlanta, and it will be going head-to-head with All In Texas. This is on a weekend where there's also Saturday night's main event, as well as the all-female pay-per-view or premium live event, Evolution. So, what do you think about the idea that WWE's aggressively running against Tony Khan whenever he has anything going on? I mean, they did it here. There was an NXT event this weekend as well, but what do you think about that?
Well, here's the thing. Like I said earlier, he's not going to do anything about it because he can't, because they can do that. It's not like he can file suit against them. You can't run. So it's not going to turn out any differently. And to be honest, that's not just running house shows or in the same market or, that type of thing. That's not necessarily what killed Jim Crockett, nor even the running the pay-per-view or the free TV opposite the pay-per-view. That didn't help any. It hurt some, but that wasn't specifically all of it. He's going to have to put up with that. Now, here's the thing. I don't think they're going to do it, if it doesn't make any sense at all whatsoever for them to do something. If they're running Center Stage, which the rent is negligible, and they're going to broadcast through their own facilities and et cetera. So they're not spending a ton of money, and they're going to make money on that show, but it's going to be on the air against the big pay-per-view from Texas. Whether that AEW has a small and devoted diehard fan base that's going to buy those pay-per-views and et cetera, I don't know whether that's going to have anything in the terms of effect on their core business or not, the big pay-per-view versus NXT. But WWE can and probably will, if they run head-to-head against them in a specific market, take some ticket sales away from them, because how much money do people have? So you knock off some of the casuals, but still, for the people who want to see AEW, they're going to pick that over WWE. For everybody else, they're going to pick WWE because they're not even really going to know about AEW. But it's just, if he thinks he's not going to win this, he's not going to somehow see, I told you we'd draw a bigger gate or, do a bigger gross on the show or whatever. He's not going to win anything. So he shouldn't really be saying it's not going to come out the same way. I can see him saying, well, that shows that they're concerned about us. But I think now at this point, they're just peppering a downed opponent. Now they want to have a little fun and maybe, run out the clock and tire their guy out, which I still think that many of, and in hindsight, can anybody prove me wrong that the WWE bid up several of the talents that Tony won just to make him spend more fucking money? So that's what I think about that.
In terms of victories, you could always have small victories. And Crockett was able to, with Turner, do Clash of the Champions against WrestleMania 4, and then that started a trend. What could Tony do right now if he wanted to say, okay, I'll do something to you guys? What could he do to affect them and one of their money-making schemes?
There isn't anything. See, the people forget that in the Monday Night Wars and in the 80s, with the Clash of Champions going against the pay-per-views or whatever, the companies were fairly close. There was a period in between the 80s and the Attitude Era where they were miles away. And when WCW signed Hulk Hogan and didn't make an appreciable dent in any type of business aspect of anything the WWF was doing. When they're close, you can do shit like that. You can run the same market. You can run opposing pay-per-views and TV specials, and you can have a direct impact on the other side. People forget that, yes, the Clash of Champions was the response for Vince getting Crockett knocked off a pay-per-view, but the Clash of Champions, it took a significant number of million people away from potentially watching WrestleMania at a point in time where you couldn't just easily watch both things or order this and that. And so there was damage being done on both sides, and in the Attitude Era also, because the sides were close. This is not close. What the fuck is where is SummerSlam? I've gone blank now this year. The 2-night SummerSlam.
I think it's over here in New Jersey.
New Jersey. Okay, so yeah, so where is what's Tony Khan going to run to hurt SummerSlam in Jersey? Huh?
A free show in the parking lot.
A free show, and he couldn't hurt SummerSlam if he ran a free show in the parking lot of the goddamn stadium they're having SummerSlam in.
You can only hope to hurt SummerSlam really with the locals if you do that, because if people are flying in, and there's a lot of those people, they're going to SummerSlam.
That's what I'm saying, is that there's nothing at the point that the WWE's at right now. There's nothing that Tony can do to put something against one of their big shows, either pay-per-view or television or whatever, to hurt it that badly. Because Tony's television show on Saturday nights does record low ratings on free cable network television whenever they do a fucking pay-per-view in the WWE. It kills the fucking viewership. So no, I don't think that Tony can do anything, really. Do you? What would it be?
I mean, he's got money, and he could use his money quicker and easier than they can.
Well, I mean, that's the thing, is he's got enough money. He could run some other type of event against the WWE shows and probably do more damage, because his wrestling shows aren't going to damage their crowds or their pay-per-views. Maybe if he brought in a goddamn professional football team or something. Or maybe if he just, hired fucking thugs off the street to go and beat the wrestlers up. That might be a better spending of money than booking a goddamn wrestling show against him, because he can't get as many people as he had before to just watch his shows when there's no opposition. They're just on. So
should anyone who's running AEW right now, anyone who's running opposition to WWE, a company that cares enough about you, they're trying to run against you every chance they have, should he make the ticket prices an issue? Should he exploit the fact that WWE is just trying to take all your money for everything, actually show how much it costs to go to one versus the other? Should that be a part of the marketing?
I don't know if I'd break down a lot of details. You might be doing advertising for the goddamn for the other side, but I think making an issue of, hey, we're not only providing great world-class wrestling, but also we don't want to, can't say, rape our fans. We don't want to price gouge our fans. We want everybody to be able to come and experience the wonderful live events that we put on, or whatever the fuck. So yes, some way or another, you could indict the WWE for just being a ridiculous amount of money to spend on any entertainment. But then again,
you want to know how you hurt WWE? You have Shad Khan offer Nick Khan $50 million to jump to AEW.
Oh, just himself.
Just himself. Come run this company for my son.
God damn it.
That's the one thing that it would start a trend. It wouldn't happen overnight. Even if Tony Khan quickly got it, everything's going to take time from this point forward. But you need someone who can come up with the plan and come up with the revenue sources.
Well, and now, but how much money is Nick Khan making now? We say $50 million like that's just fantasy land, but he might be close to that right now. But if there was an amount of money that Shad would give Tony, that Tony could say, Nick Khan, come and run this company for me, then we would be having a different conversation about whether or not Tony could do anything to disrupt the WWE.
Yeah. And you know what else?
And
Tony and Nick would become best friends.
well, and they wouldn't have to change the monograms in the bathroom.
I guess not.
But I mean, and that's the thing, because I wasn't even thinking grand enough. Remember when they were first starting out, and I said, "My God, your father's a billionaire." Instead of signing all these goddamn goofballs from the Outlaws, go after buyout contracts of people that are not affiliated with the WWE, but under any other contract. Any other promoter ought to be open for business to talk to a billionaire and buy. He could have bought Jacob Fatu at that point in time.
He could have bought any of these companies for a few $1 million.
But yeah, but that's the point is that if he really was going to spend the money to combat and or eventually take over from the WWE, then he would have gone for quality talent at the start. And I wasn't even thinking about if you'd have made a play with Nick Khan. Come here, run this whole thing, hire people to book it and write it and produce the television show and shoot the show. And I'll give you the money and I'm going to have fun because I own everything, but you're going to run me a real company. While Vince was still over there, and if this had been done 5 years ago, we might be having a different conversation about who the number one company was.
Because I also think AEW kind of needs that image change. I think if you all of a sudden showed there was someone serious running it, it would change the perception that some fans have with AEW, but also that a lot of wrestlers have gained with AEW since AEW first started. And you first saw Tony and you heard about him. And then you've kind of watched him over the last 5 years. Like I said, he looks really put together here at the scrum. And hopefully that's a good thing because he has to win over wrestlers who have heard about chaos, a wacky boss,
strange hugs,
everyone doing whatever they want on these shows, production meeting issues, like all these things. All that perception has to change. And even if Tony changed it, the perception is it's still Tony. And it always will be. Again, we're hypothetically thinking here, but...
Well, yeah, but see, that's the thing is that how many sponsors or, co-promotions have they missed out on or that we haven't heard about because there were no real serious people there at the company when one of the Buckaroo's wives was doing merchandise, and does Tony talk to the sponsors himself? If so, who is it? And do major companies think, what the fuck is going on here with these people? If there was a Nick Khan influence where rational, serious, legitimate, experienced people that do these type of things were doing these type of things with all that money behind them, I mean, that's been the whole thing. They've always been funded. We didn't realize at the start that Tony would spend literally hundreds of millions of dollars to get to this point. But if they had used the money that they had access to from the start, instead of trying to fulfill Tony's adolescent fantasies, pick the right 8 people to put on the talent roster and the 2 people to put in charge, and they pick the 6 people that they're going to work. If it had been put together with no thought to money, but thought to professionalism, this could have been a whole different story.
Well, we'll see what happens going forward with that. Of course, if you're Tony Khan, you may want to sue.
Well, in that case, he's missed the boat because the man that he should have called a long time ago to sue the stork that brought him for carrying dope is already otherwise occupied helping find folks in the cult of Cornette deal with legal difficulties that I'm talking about this man. Play the music.
Call Stephen P. News. good show or two. Skills to the rest.
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, that stork suing son of a bitch, Stephen P. New, over there in the mountaineer state of West Virginia will sue who? That's Stephen P. New. He'll sue you or anybody else to get even. Get even with Stephen. Whether or not you've been wrongfully terminated or harmed or poisoned or given cancer or crotch rot in some kind of way, these horrible, heartless corporations, these horrible jail conditions in the state of West Virginia, the opioid addicted baby, Stephen P. New at newlawoffice.com, 877-50-STEVE has been helping people out from way back, and they can help you too if you call them on the phone. Stephen's waiting to take your call right now. He's got nothing else to do but help people in their time of need. 877-50-STEVE. That fucking stork.
Well, Jim, let's get one more thing here before we get out of here. We ran a little long with the reviews. We'll have more questions and fun and hilarity next week, but a ton of listeners once again have sent this over. What are your thoughts on Ric Flair's new line of alcoholic drinks entitled Ric Flair Spirits? As one of the listeners here, Seth, emailed in, this is after Woo Energy Drink and Woo Wings. Now Ric Flair Spirits. And I have
Ric Flair's line of drinks. I have
a list here of the drinks they have. They now have Flair Vodka. They have Flair Gin. They have Flair Bourbon. They have Flair Tequila. And they have Wooski.
Wooski.
Jim, what are your thoughts on someone putting up money for Ric Flair to have an alcohol? Is he the ultimate sponsor for an alcohol company, or is he the exact last person you want?
Well, I'm not sure. Yes, our current spokesman, it was just several years ago that all the medical professionals told him quit drinking or he would die. Now he can sell you some alcohol. The thing that I'm confused about, I understand there's corporate tie-ins, and Ric Flair is a name and a brand, a lifestyle. And you've got the Woo Wings, and you've got the Woo Weed, and you've got the Woo Whiskey even. But is it usual? Even Conor McGregor has a vodka, and The Rock has tequila. But is it normal for the same entity to sponsor or be have their name attached to every goddamn alcoholic drink in the bar? Because, we make bourbon here in Kentucky, right? But they're noted for the bourbon whiskey from Kentucky, that we don't have like vodka distilleries here. But in Russia, in Mother Russia, the home office of the United States now, they got the vodka, but they don't do the bourbon whiskey. But Flair's he's got whiskey, he's got gin, he's got beer, he's got fucking vodka, he's got one bourbon, one scotch, one beer. Is that normal, Brian, for any celebrity involvement in spirits? Just let's do the whole goddamn wall.
Certainly a hard launch. We'll give him that. Where you go from here? What are you going to introduce from here? Wine?
Get a sake.
Oh, well, after what they had to edit out of the Kill Tony with Ric Flair, I don't know if they want him talking about anything with Asian people right now.
Oh, well, and what do they drink in Egypt?
That's that one. That one is funny. I don't know what they drink, but that would be a natural feud, of course. Not necessarily something he would want to embrace, but a feud.
Because they were doing fine with the whiskey and the gin until the Egyptians showed up.
Do you think this is a better or worse idea than Ric Flair, like behind a lending company? Flair Spirits.
Maybe they're thinking it because of the natural jocularity that can be had from conflating the two things, that maybe that will increase the brand awareness and everybody will be talking about it and joking about it, such as the Ric Flair North Carolina lottery ticket, where he endorsed that. And the boys, the joke was that every ticket is guaranteed to win $5,000, but they cost $10,000 each. Maybe this is you You can poison your liver in the same manner as your idol, Ric Flair.
And by the way, apparently there was a company called Flair Bourbon, but Flare. But if you Google Flair Bourbon with the Ric Flair spelling, it goes to Flair Bourbon, the other one. So now they're a competitor on the market with a similar
Do you
name.
think they're opening themselves up to a lawsuit already?
We'll see. But good luck, Ric Flair, with your brand new line of liquors. Ric Flair's wines and spirits.
What about some Ric Flair Ripple? You think we could get some Ric Flair Ripple?
We're about a year away from that.
And then he could combine some with his Ric Flair champagne and call it Champipple.
How far are we away from Ric Flair, like just trying to get you to buy gold and silver?
I think that's why he's wearing those suits. When he walks in the room for $500, you can just pull an ounce off of him.
I'm Ric Flair. I want to show you this coin. That's what All right, well, with that, where's this thing? We've had a...
Where is it going?
Where's it been? Where are we? With that, the drive-thru is closed.
That was so gentle.
All right. The drive-thru returns next week, and of course, we'll be back in a few days on the Jim Cornette Experience, another pack show, wherever you find your favorite podcast. Back always on YouTube. We're not back, we're just there constantly.
We're there.
24
We
hours a
never
day.
left.
We're never gone. The official
Never.
Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Check it out today. Full episodes, clips of the episodes, omnibus collections, Travis Heckel artwork. The official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. Patreon.com/Cornette. Go through the archives, $5 a month. Patreon.com/Cornette. The drive-thru is brought to you by the law office of Stephen P. New, 877-50-STEVE. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. Of course, Cornette's Collectibles at jimcornette.com. What's going on, Jim?
Well, I'll tell you what's going on, and that is sales, sales, sales. If you have money, I will take it from you, and I will send you things that are worth the money that you have sent me at jimcornette.com.
At jimcornette.com, of course. You can hear the wrestling news each and every day wherever you find your favorite podcast, The Wrestling News. But until next week, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally-ho!